19-year-old receptionist Angela Whitinger is suing her mother, administrative assistant Deborah Povis, for stealing her settlement check. Angela says she was injured in a car accident when she was 4 years old.
Yes, this is case number 407 on the calendar, the matter of Whitinger versus Povis.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Whitinger, this is your mother. And you were in an automobile accident when you were a child.
Yes.
There was a settlement of that claim. And when you turned 18, you expected to start to receive yearly or quarterly installments on that settlement. And it is your claim that your mother kept half of one of the checks.
Yes.
And you want that money back.
Right.
When was the accident, Miss Povis?
December 29th of 1989.
And you acknowledge that you kept half the check.
Yes.
How much was half the check?
$3,070.
And you say that you kept half of it because the check was written in both your names and you're entitled to half of it.
Yes.
Okay. Describe the accident to me that occurred in 1989.
I was not in the car. My roommate was driving the car, lost control of the car.
Your roommate?
Yes.
Male or female?
Female.
So you allowed your daughter, who was how old?
4.
To ride in the car with your roommate,
Yes.
who lost control of the car, so the accident was your roommate's fault.
Correct.
Whose car was it?
It was her car.
And where was your daughter sitting in the car?
In the passenger seat.
In the front?
Yes.
Was she in a car seat?
No, she was not. She was actually reclined back in the car seat, but it had a seatbelt on. And then when the impact happened, she dove underneath the seatbelt.
And?
She knocked her 4 front teeth out that had been previously knocked out, so it was actually 4 fake teeth in the front that she knocked the bridge out. She had a concussion on her forehead, and she bit through her bottom of her chin and fractured her jaw.
So she was incapacitated for a while?
Yes, I don't remember how
And it was
long.
the roommate's fault?
Correct.
And what was the settlement that you agreed to?
In lieu of taking a $20,000 settlement at the time, I opted to set up a structured settlement because it would pay more money because I guess they invest it. So therefore, I set up payments for 4 years starting last year. So the first payment came last year for $61.40, and then another payment came this year, and then there's 2 more payments of that, and then the final payment of $10,000 in the year 2010.
So about $35,000.
Correct.
Good. Now, that's in addition to all of the expenses, to all the medical expenses that she had. Is that right? Those were paid?
She did not have medical insurance on her car insurance, so they only pay it with the final payment of the settlement.
So who paid the medical payments?
I paid them.
Let me see.
Here's some bills, and then...
Not the bills. I want to see the payments.
Oh.
I want to see the payments.
I don't have the payment receipts.
So then you didn't pay them?
I did pay them.
Show me. Show me a paid bill. Do you have the paid bills? Are any of those bills marked paid?
No.
Take them back. I'm not interested in them. So you don't have a paid bill for any of the bills from 1989, and you don't have any canceled checks. Is that right? So what you're telling me is in 2010, when your daughter gets your final payment, you're going to pay the doctors from 1989. Is that what you're telling me?
No. I've already paid the doctors.
You've already paid the doctors, and you don't have one paid bill.
It was from back 1989.
You get a paid bill when you paid the doctor.
It was also a settlement for the time that I had taken off work to care
Just a
for
second. Let's get to it, Miss Povis. First to the bills. I'm trying to see how you justify keeping half of this money. Not for the bills, because you didn't pay the bills. You stiffed the doctors. And the other thing that you say is you stayed home from work to take care of her?
Yes.
Who was the one who let her drive with the roommate without a car seat?
She wasn't required by law to have a car seat at that state.
Did you think it was wise for her to be in the front seat of a car? A 4-year-old? I mean, just because it's not the law, you're not responsible to do the right thing as her mother, to make sure she's sitting in the back seat in a car seat, well strapped in?
Yes.
Can I see a copy of the check, please?
Yes.
I want to see a copy of the settlement. This is a very poorly written settlement. It's surprising to me. But your name at that point was Shuck?
Correct.
And you signed as parent and natural guardian of Angela. You signed on her behalf.
Okay.
Is that right?
I signed the document, yes.
On her behalf. That's what it says. As parent and natural guardian of Angela, a minor.
Okay. I believe you. That's what they gave me to sign.
So you understood that you were signing on her behalf as her parent. Because she was a minor, she could not enter into an agreement. So now you can explain to me why you're entitled to any of this money.
Well, one, it was for reimbursement of my expenses, like I said.
You didn't pay any expenses.
I did pay expenses.
I don't believe you. I believe you stiffed the doctors.
I've never stiffed anyone in my entire life.
Show me. Show me one paid bill, I'll believe you. One paid bill.
I did not bring any of my canceled receipts.
Today is the day. Today's court.
Okay.
Angela Whitinger says her mother, Deborah Povis, stole her settlement check from an accident when she was 4 years old. Angela claims her mother is trying to cash in on her injuries.
So anybody can have bills. The paid bills show that you've paid the bills. Then I would consider them.
And the checks were to be made out to both of us to compensate for both of us according to that judgment up there. The checks are to be made out to Angela Whitinger and, at that time, Deborah
Yes, it says that they're going to be made out to both of you. So I want you to explain to me why you're entitled to any of this money. She was the one that was injured.
She was injured, yes. I also took time off work. I was off work, I know, for at least 2 weeks.
Show me that you took 2 weeks off from work.
This is in 1989, 90.
What were you doing in 1989?
I was a bill collector.
For whom?
Central Hardware.
Central Hardware where?
In Bridgeton, Missouri.
Is that where you still live?
I live in the same vicinity, yes.
Good. So why didn't you call them up and say, I need your payroll records to show that I took 2 weeks off from work to take care of my daughter?
Exist.
What?
They no longer exist. Central Hardware is no longer in existence.
Let's say you were working for Central Hardware and making $200 a week in 1989, maybe. That's $400. That's not $3,000. You aren't making $1,500 a week,
no.
were you? No. And you think you're entitled to half of all of this money, right?
Correct.
You're not. You're not. You signed this stipulation of settlement on behalf of your daughter. That money belongs to her. Period. End of discussion.
Then why would my name be on the check?
Because that's the way this judge signed the order. It's muddled. But just because you bear the title of mother doesn't mean you're entitled to any money. That doesn't sound fair, does it? That doesn't sound reasonable to you, does it? Just because you are her mother doesn't mean that you're entitled to profit from her injury, especially when you are profiting from her injury. If what you want is half of $34,000, you are profiting from her injury.
I had medical expenses that exceeded over $4,000.
And I'm going to tell you something, madam. You may have medical expenses that exceeded almost $4,000. I don't believe you paid them. And if you can produce paid bills from any of these doctors, you have the right to reschedule this case. But today was your day to come into court with proof. And you came to court with no proof. You came to court with bills that were still unpaid according to the bills. Because on the bottom, I can guarantee you, it says, please remit. Right?
Correct.
Please remit means that there's still money owed. So, if I'm wrong, produce a paid bill from half of those people. But if you can't, then how can you justify taking half of your daughter's money?
The same thing I just told you about the $4,000.
Listen, let's say a month from now you can produce bills for me for $4,000.
Correct.
I doubt it, because you're not going to be able to. But let's say you can. Why do you think you're entitled to $17,000?
I only kept $3,000.
So is what you're saying that you don't intend to keep half of the rest of the checks? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
You're questioning. That's a question. It is what you're saying. You only want to be reimbursed for what you spent out of pocket, and the rest of the money you intend to turn over to your daughter, and the most you've spent so far, according to you, which I don't believe, is $4,000.
Correct.
Fine. Then, right now, I am issuing a provisional judgment for your daughter in the amount of $3,000, which means you're going to turn over that $3,000 to her in 30 days. You have 30 days to send into the court paid bills from those people, from the doctor, the hospital, whoever else was involved. And if you can do that, then I will rescind the order. Is that fair?
Yes. Can I say something too?
Yes, I just want to know if you think that that's fair.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
I also found another, in the statement, or the settlement, it says that when it was settled, there was $9,166 that was paid. And of that sum, $6,666.66 will be paid to my attorney, and $2,500 will be paid to me for Angela's benefit. I know that the $2,500 is to be used only for Angela's benefit, and I will deposit that sum in a restricted account. I further understand that the balance will be held.
Can I see that? Can I see
Yes.
what you're reading from that one?
And I've never seen any of this money either. So that could...
Can I see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This you didn't give me. This says that at the time you signed this agreement, you got a check for $9,166. $6,666 was paid to your attorney, and $2,500 was paid to you for Angela's benefit. And you were directed to deposit that money in a restricted bank account. And I further understand, you signed this, that the balance will be held and invested for Angela's use. What'd you do with the money?
I put her through braces.
As a mother, I would think that that's...
Shh. You have a bill for the braces?
No, but she did have braces, which I made payments on.
Well, when did she have braces?
I believe she got them when she was 10 or 11.
Well, a lot of kids get braces, madam, that have absolutely nothing to do with an accident. Most of my children had braces. They were never in a car accident.
She had fractured her jaw, and when she fractured her jaw, it positioned it backwards.
You have proof of that?
Did she fracture her jaw?
No.
Oh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I hate to do this, but I have to. Could I see it?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angela Whitinger says her mother, Deborah Povis, stole her settlement check from an accident when she was 4 years old. Angela claims her mother is trying to cash in on her injuries.
Okay, I've heard you, and I've heard what you're saying, which is now memorialized, that you do not intend to take any more of your daughter's money, that you intend to endorse the remainder of the checks over to her that she's going to be receiving in the coming years. That the only thing in question is the $3,000 that you kept from this year's settlement check, and that you are going to provide the court within 30 days of paid bills. If you do that, your daughter has acknowledged that any money that you were out of pocket as a result of this accident should be reimbursed to you, right?
Right.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000 to be held for 30 days. That's all. Thank you.
Party like excused. You may step out.
With everything that's gone on in the past 20 years of my life, it's just been ridiculous, so I thought it was finally time to bring it into law.
We've had a rocky relationship.
Since I was 8, I've been in and out of her house, living with my grandparents, living with my aunt.
She's never lived, per se, with my parents. She stayed with them briefly.
I moved out at 17 and have been supporting myself since then.
She did move out on her own when she was 17.
Me and her have never really gotten along as mother and daughter.
I'm hoping that now this is over with, it's done with, that we can both move on with our lives.
I don't see a relationship at all.
Maybe try to make a bridge.
I really want nothing to do with that side of the family.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Doheny versus Cephas, step forward.
20-year-old student Kevin Doheny is suing commission consultant Donna Cephas and her son, 16-year-old Keith Cephas, for the cost of a cover for his Cobra Mustang. Kevin says Keith burned a hole into it when he flicked his cigarette.
Mr. Doheny, it is your claim that Mrs. Cephas's son, your first name?
Keith.
Keith, was smoking and was careless, burned a hole in your car cover, and I assume that that is the car cover in there.
Correct.
And it's a small hole, is that right?
A cigarette hole.
You want him to pay for a new car cover.
Absolutely.
And Mrs. Cephas says, first, it was an act of God, the wind blew the cigarette, and second, you can get a kit to patch it. So why buy a whole new car cover when all it is a patch?
Correct.
I know, I hate to do this, but I have to. Could I see it?
Yes.
How big is that car cover?
It's for a Ford Mustang Cobra. It covers the whole car.
Is that your
My
pet
pride
car?
and joy.
Could
Yes,
I
it is.
see that? I know somebody else who keeps their car covered. I could never understand that. You got to take it off and get into the car and then put it on. Understand? Had you just purchased this?
Yes, ma'am, I did. A month prior.
Can I see the bill, please? Okay. And he's a friend of yours, is that right?
Yeah, I tutored him in school.
Okay.
And I would help him out, work on his car and stuff like that. It's the $169.95.
Okay. Ta-da! Say something.
Tell me what happened.
Okay. Well, what happened was I was standing outside. I just finished a cigarette and I went to go flick it. I flicked it like that way. His car was over here, and the wind took the cigarette like literally over my head and landed on the car cover. And then I seen it land on the car cover, so I flicked it off. And then I didn't realize it was going to make a burn hole in it. And then next day, while I was in school, he calls me and tells me that I burned a hole in his car cover.
So?
And he wanted me to buy him a new car cover.
So?
I told him that I had a patch kit and I would come look at the hole to see how bad it was.
He doesn't want it patched. He wants it the way it was before you flicked your cigarette. Do you have anything you want to say, Mr. Cephas?
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that, you know, he did burn the hole, but, I mean, it's not like he literally went up and burned the hole. I mean, he flicked the cigarette, you know, the wind
He was careless.
took it.
He was careless.
Yes.
He was careless.
Right, but I mean, he didn't purposely do it, but he did say, I will try to fix it. He's not avoiding his responsibility.
He can
He's
fix
saying,
it.
The patch, yeah, you can with those vinyl, the little vinyl kits, because we had patched other vinyl. We had a roof.
He doesn't want a patch.
I understand, but I really don't feel as though we should have to pay for a brand new one if it can be fixed. He didn't even try. He just out and out said, no, I want a brand new one. You could fix it. You could take it yourself. Well, I don't want a cover.
Well, you just bought yourself a cover. You just bought yourself a cover. Let's say you saved up for a very long time to buy yourself a very special leather coat. And some stranger negligently cut a hole in the coat. Small hole. You just spent $500 on this leather coat that you had been lusting over. And they said, gee, I'm so sorry. I was careless, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to get a patch kit. So you can patch it. You say, I don't want a patch kit. I just bought this brand new leather coat. Why should I patch it when it could split? It may not split today. It'll split tomorrow, or it'll split next month, or 6 months from now. Is perfectly good. Why would I want to accept something that's second rate? You got it?
Yes.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $169.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nursing student Angela Nemechek is suing her biological daughter, 17-year-old Jessica Simons, and Jessica's adoptive sister, Kathy Brooks, for the money she spent when Jessica came to live with her. Jessica and Kathy are countersuing, claiming Angela stole Jessica's Social Security checks.
All rise. Yes, this is case number 449 on the calendar in the matter of Nemechek versus Brooks Simons. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Looks like a lot of witnesses here for a relatively simple case. Miss Nemechek,
Yes.
I assume that this is Jessica?
Yes.
According to your complaint, you are Jessica's birth mother.
Yes.
And Jessica was adopted by a family when she was 4 years old.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are her sister,
Yes.
adoptive sister,
Yes.
and both of her adoptive parents passed away, unfortunately, from illness. For a period of time, she was staying with you.
Yes.
And then, Ms. Nemechek, Jessica decided that she wanted to come and live with you.
Yes.
And she did for a short period of time.
Yes, Your Honor.
3 months, 4 months?
2.5 months.
That was
And during-
3.5 months.
3.5 months. And during that time, you purchased some clothing for her and had other expenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then there was falling out.
Yes,
And
Your
she
Honor.
went back to her sister's home.
Correct.
She and her sister came and got all this stuff that you had purchased for Jessica.
Yes.
And you want to be compensated for that.
Yes.
You're Miss Brooks?
Yes.
You have a counterclaim on behalf of your sister because you have guardianship of her now.
Correct.
And that is for reimbursement from the Social Security checks
Correct.
that was sent to Ms. Nemechek. And you want that money back because you say that was hers to spend.
Correct.
Ms. Nemechek, how old was Jessica when she was adopted?
4.
And did you have contact with her from age 4 to age 17?
Yes, I did.
When?
Periodically. I've had phone calls with them. I've went and seen them. Me and their godmother, the one that adopted them, was really good friends. That's the reason why I let her adopt them, was because of my sickness that I do have, and currently still have.
Is that a physiological or a mental illness?
Physiological and mental.
Did you support your daughter over the years with money?
When I seen them at times, I did when I could financially afford it.
I'm talking about regular support.
No.
When your daughter came to live with you, I assume that either you weren't getting along with your sister, is that right?
Well, I just wanted to go live with my mom. I just wanted to get to know her. I wanted to have a mother-daughter relationship with her.
Did you approve of that?
At first, no, because of all the problems that we have had with Angela.
What kind of problems?
She would call their schools when my parents were alive, trying to get them out of school. Jessica and I are, we do fight a lot, and I think we do because you don't go from being a sister to trying to be a mother. And, you know, when someone is, 14 years old, our relationship changed because...
Were you married when your parents died?
Yes.
You have children?
I have 3 children.
And you took your sister to live with you?
I took both of my sisters to live with me.
And this was the older sister?
Yes.
Is that right? She take good care of you?
Yes. I love her. She's my sister. I'm not gonna do this. When Jessica came to me and told me she wanted to know Angie, sorry.
Would it be better if I asked you questions?
No, I need to say this because it's important. I don't know what it's like not knowing your parents. So who was I to tell Jessica that she couldn't get to know her biological mother? Unfortunately, Angela, in the whole time since my parents have had Venus and Jessica and their older brother David, my parents adopted 3 of her children so they could stay together. She never could step up to the plate and act like an adult and knock on my door and say, hey, Kath, I'm sorry your parents died. I really want to help. I really would like to get to know my daughter.
She would sneak around and see us, basically.
So it was very hard for me to let Jessica go, but I spoke with Jessica all the time. She gets a death benefit from my parents. That's what she has left of my parents.
And what did you do with your death benefit, Jessica?
I signed the money order over to my mother so she can put it in her bank. And she said she would save the money for me so I can buy a car.
Did you do that, Ms. Nemechek?
I did put that money in the bank. I put it in my savings account, and Jessica kept asking me for money, and I kept taking it out of my savings account and giving it to her. I do have proof of that.
Well, how much in the 3 months that she was there? You got 3 checks?
I got 2.
How much were they for?
$931 each.
One was $931, one was $731, and that was it.
How much did she get?
$931 each a month, and it was a total of $2,700 and some odd dollars that was giving to her from her death benefit.
Well, let's say, for argument's sake, it was about $2,000. When your daughter decided to go back, how much of the money that she turned over to you did you return to her or put in a savings account in her name?
She had none. She had taken that all out with withdrawals.
How could I...
Just a second.
Okay.
Let us assume that that's true. Who are you suing and for what?
The money that the 2 checks that she received, that Kathy had gave her, we gave her more money besides that.
You're her mother. Who's supposed to take care of
I signed my rights over.
Then
I
you
signed
have,
my rights over.
Then Ms. Nemechek...
She's getting a check, Ms. Kathy
Now,
Brooks
I'm
is...
speaking.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's not just about the money.
Well, if it's not just about the money, you're in the wrong place. Go to a psychiatrist. Because that's what I'm here for. I'm here about the money. Other than that, you can go find Dr. Phil someplace. He'll be more than happy to hear you.
And later today,
Which one of you was driving the car?
I was, Your Honor.
Which one was drunk?
Both of us.
Okay, Mr. Rice had about $1,200 worth of damage to his property. Who's going to pay for it? I don't see those hands going up.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angela Nemechek is suing her biological daughter, Jessica Simons, and Jessica's adoptive sister, Kathy Brooks, for money she spent on Jessica's behalf. Angela says Jessica lived with her for 3 months when her adoptive parents died.
If you don't want to be her mother, then you say, I'm sorry you can't come to live with me. But when you buy her clothes, things that you should have been buying for her for 17 years, and she decides, I am speaking, and you give it to her, that is a gift. You don't get that back. You get to say, I'm sorry it didn't work out. I know I wasn't much of a parent to you when you were growing up. I know that you had lovely parents. Fortunately, I wasn't there for you. This little bit is my small bit, aside from the fact that you got a couple of $1,000s that you spent, because $100 here and $100 there over 3 months don't come out to $2,000.
I have all my proof.
I don't care what you have. What you don't have, clearly, is a conscience. You're supposed to do the right thing.
You have no idea what I went through in the past 17 years with
That's
these
not,
people.
listen to me. Whatever happened to you over 17 years, you visited on yourself, and you also visited on your children. Because whatever problems you had, you decided to have children. Mm-hmm. They didn't make that choice. You made that choice.
Yes, Your
so
Honor.
quite frankly, nobody is interested in what you went through over 17 years. That's your problem. You visited your problems on innocence. And when you do that, you don't get sympathy. And when you do that...
The reason why I gave up my kids is because I have leukemia. I was told I had 2 years to live.
Listen to me very carefully. If God blessed you and said, while you had 2 years to live, here you are, 15 years later, still alive and kicking, then what you do if your daughter comes back to you and you've given her a couple of $1,000s in clothes that you didn't take care of over her entire growing up years, and you decided to do it,
Your
and
Honor,
if it didn't work out,
her clothes in between those 17
Miss
years.
Nemechek, quite frankly, I find your behavior bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. If you suffer from an illness, and if you're giving me that as an excuse for giving up your children, despite the fact that years later you're still here, and if you had the unique opportunity of getting to know your children again, then you don't terminate that by suing them. That's stupid
I'm
and
not suing
amoral.
my daughter. I'm suing the person that supposedly gave her money that she never gave her.
That has nothing to do with you. It's not your money. It's not your money. It's Bird's money. It's the citizens' money. It's not your money. Now, but for the fact, Miss Brooks, just a second. Don't
I have
move.
them walk up here?
No, I don't need them. I said there are an awful lot of witnesses here for a relatively simplistic case. There's nothing that I don't understand that I have to have
Well, there's
made
a lot
clear.
more to this case, Your Honor. It's not just about the money.
Well, if it's not just about the money, you're in the wrong place. Go to a psychiatrist. Because that's what I'm here for. I'm here about the money. That's what courts are for. Other than that, you can go find Dr. Phil someplace. He'll be more than happy to hear you. Now, shh, Ms. Brooks, but for the fact that Ms. Nemechek brought this action against you, would you have counterclaimed for the money that Jessica gave her?
Yes, we actually already hired an attorney to help us write up the complaint against Ms. Nemechek. I also have a letter from our bank stating that Jessica's death benefit did come out of her account.
Well, let me see the letter from the bank. How long do you receive the death benefits for, Jessica?
Till I'm 18 and out of school, high school.
Well, this letter indicates, Ms. Nemechek, that there were 3 checks, all in the amount of $931.
Well, all I have here is a deposit on August 9th for $731.
That doesn't mean that you didn't get $931.
And then I
that
have
means that
a deposit here
I'm
on
speaking.
September.
I'm speaking. Death benefits don't change by $200. So that means that you may have deposited $731 and taken $200 in cash.
I don't recall that, Your Honor.
Well, if you don't recall, that's why I have this from the bank. So 931 times 3 is $2,793. What'd you do with it?
Right here.
Oh, let me see it. Perfect. What's Sprint?
That's a cell phone bill.
$122?
Yes.
Get it. I don't know what this is. This is nothing. White Fox Den, $28. What's that for?
That's food.
Food?
Food.
Oh my God.
Walgreens. Sunglasses. 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 3 pairs of sunglasses. Shampoo. What's that for?
It's for Jessica.
Miss Nemechek, I think you're a bad lady.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angela Nemechek is suing her biological daughter, Jessica Simons, and Jessica's adoptive sister, Kathy Brooks, for money she spent on Jessica's behalf. Angela says Jessica lived with her for 3 months when her adoptive parents died.
I think you're a bad lady. And I believe your daughter when she said you were going to take these checks and put them in an account for her, and the purpose of that account was that when she got to be old enough, she was going to be able to buy a car for herself. I believe you told her that, and I believe that you then went through your trash can and picked out receipts that you decided for your home, for you and your husband and whoever else lives there, that the government was going to be responsible for. If you supported your daughter yourself for 3 months and you've given her no other support her whole life, you ought to thank God that somebody took care of her for the 14 years that you didn't. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $2,793. Your claim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I wouldn't let her have custody over me, and that's just a way of revenge for her, I guess. Suing her own daughter.
I have one daughter here. She's the one I'll help, because I know she never screws me like the other one did.
She was just doing everything behind everybody's back. My son Scott, she came to his school and asked him to go and do drugs with her.
I'll see her in the next court on that one.
She does need professional help. Definitely, she does.
Maybe later on in life, if I'm not dead, then she can come around. But then again, my husband don't want her ever around.
I think it's ridiculous. I have nothing to do with her anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rice versus Welkowitz. Winnie, step forward.
Restaurant owner David Rice is suing 18-year-old James Welkowitz and his former friend, 18-year-old James Winnie, for damaging his restaurant's sign when they were driving drunk.
Welkowitz, raise your hand. Winnie, raise your hand. Which one of you was driving the car?
I was, Your Honor.
Which one was the passenger in the car?
I was, Your Honor.
Which one was drunk?
Both of us.
Raise your hand. Mr. Rice, you are the owner of a Wendy's.
Yes, I am.
These 2 idiots came through your drive-through.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Wilkowitz driving the car,
I believe so, yes.
and Mr. Winnie, passenger in the car.
Yes.
One of them wanted free food.
Yes, ma'am.
Raise your hand if you wanted free food. Raise your hand! And when they were told they couldn't get free food, they drove off
Sped off, yes, Your Honor.
and damaged some of your property.
Hit a light
Sign
pole and
and a
ran
pole.
over a sign. Yes, ma'am.
And you want them to pay for the damage.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see the damage, please?
Yes. I have pictures also, Your Honor.
I'd like to see the pictures. I'd like to see the estimates.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
There you go, Bert, thank you. And I have police reports also.
We'll see. Date of the incident, please.
October 21st, 2004.
October 21st. That's my birthday.
Happy birthday. My brother's birthday also.
Now, you gentlemen were not celebrating my birthday, were you? What were you celebrating on October 21st?
We were celebrating. We were just having a night out, just drinking.
And whose car were you driving, Mr. Wilkowitz?
I was driving his car.
And how did you get the keys to his car, Mr. Wilkowitz?
He gave them to me. He asked me to drive because he was too drunk. He was swerving all over the road because we just got back from Taco Bell.
How old are you?
I'm 18.
What do you do?
I do construction.
Did you graduate from high school?
Yes, Your Honor.
When?
June 04.
And you?
I didn't graduate, Your Honor.
How old
I
are you?
graduate this year.
How old are you?
18.
Are you on a 5-year plan of high school?
No.
A 6-year plan?
I started school late.
You think you're going to get smarter by being drunk?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Rice has had about $1,200 worth of damage to his property. Who's going to pay for it? I don't see those hands going up.
Hey, Your Honor, can I say something, though?
That's wiping your nose, sir. I don't see the hands going up. Who's
I just
gonna
wanted
pay?
to bring up that he did break my nose. We got out the car, I pulled over, he broke my nose, I had to go to the hospital.
He broke your nose. That before or after you damaged Mr.
After.
Shh. Is that before or after you damaged Mr. Rice's property?
After I damaged his property.
Why would I care about that? I'm going to say it again. You were driving.
Yes, Your Honor.
It was your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
Raise your hand and tell me who's going to pay for Mr. Rice's damaged pole and sign. Ugh.
Can I say something, Your Honor? The only reason why I hit the sign because he grabbed the wheel.
Why would I grab the own wheel in my car?
Why were you in the car with him when you were drunk?
He took my keys from my friend's mom.
Yes. That doesn't tell me how you got into the car, sir.
Because he was about to take off with my car.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's lying.
Oh. I can't anymore. I can't anymore. I mean, it's Dumb and Dumber. They were the standard for the script.
You read my mind.
Mr. Rice.
Yes, ma'am.
Sad but true. Youth of America. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,200. Just take him out.
Okay. Please excuse you. You may step out.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Teacher's assistant Michelle Leyva is suing her ex-husband, airport maintenance man Larry Cordova, for breaking his promise to move with her to New Mexico. Michelle says, instead, Larry left her for another woman.
All rise. Yes, case number 369 on the calendar in the matter of Leyva versus Cordova. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Cordova is your former husband. You have 3 children.
Yes.
I gather 2 of those children were born during the course of your marriage. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you divorced in 2000.
Yes.
Got back together again, didn't remarry, but had another child.
Yes.
It is your claim, Miss Leyva, that your former husband deceived you. And that he convinced you to relocate to New Mexico.
Yes.
He convinced you to relocate to New Mexico because he said he had a job there and you were going to be a family there. You left your home, broke your lease, took your kids out of school, moved from where to New Mexico?
From Denver, Colorado to Albuquerque.
And Mr. Cordova was supposed to join you. Instead, he stayed in Colorado.
That's where I live.
And married somebody else.
Yes.
So you want him to pay all your expenses, moving expenses, you have no job, you quit your job. Mr. Cordova says that he never told you to move to New Mexico. You moved to New Mexico because you wanted to be near your father. And he never had intentions of relocating.
No, I didn't.
Okay. When was your 3rd child born, Mr. Cordova?
July of 2001.
And after you and Miss Leyva were divorced, did you ever resume living together?
Yes.
When?
About January of 2001.
And how long did you stay together?
October of last year.
I moved out December 1st.
Why did you move out?
I met him when I was 15. It's been an ongoing, it's been a mess since then. I loved him, he loved me, but we never could get ourselves to get together, to be together. So after this time, I moved out. I got my own place. I had a very good job that I loved.
Just a second. So you moved out in December 2003 because you decided that you didn't want to be married to him or together as a couple anymore.
Yeah.
Well, something changed evidently at some point. When was that?
In May, he called and asked, it was my birthday in May, he told me that he had tickets to the De La Hoya fight if I wanted to go. So I agreed and I went.
How long did you go away for?
The weekend.
Who watched the children?
My mother. And then we came home and, you know, we were friends and stuff. In July, my father came out and it was a mess because we put our kids through ridiculous stuff. I mean,
it's clear to me that you did.
Yeah, my daughter's 10 years old. She's supposed to be in the 5th grade. I held her back. She's in 4th grade now. She's just struggling. She's at a 1st grade level. It's bad. And my father came down and met with Larry. They talked first, and then I came later on that day. I was crying, and I told him, Larry, if you do not want this, if you are not sure, please don't do this, because...
Don't do what? I haven't heard about him doing anything.
Well, he was talking about me and him getting back together.
That was in July?
Yes. We had talked about before us moving to a different state and not knowing no one, a new start, and we can try stuff over and just work on our family.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No.
No. You never had that discussion with her?
Her father did come down to talk to me.
And what did he say to you?
He said
Is this
that,
her father?
Yes.
He said that he's going to tell me what he said, too. What do you say he said to you, sir?
He said that he found a house for Michelle and my kids, and that Michelle wanted to go out there and live with him, and she's been wanting to move out there, and I knew that. That's not something that I wanted to do. I was already in a relationship with somebody else. They asked me if I wanted to.
Well, when did you start a relationship with somebody else?
In July.
So between May and July, you met somebody else?
Correct.
Did you tell that to your former wife?
No.
Shh.
Did I tell her I met somebody else?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
You did?
Yes.
Told her name?
Yes, she knew her name. As a matter of fact, she even stole her phone number from my house and was making prank calls.
Really? I never called her, and that was because...
Never called who?
I've never called the girl. I went to his house. We were supposed to be together. He told me his last day of work was going to be August 11th at Denver International Airport was his last day. He's going to start a new job in Albuquerque August 16th. I went to his house one night, went over just to go see, you know, what was up, to hang out, and I found this number of this girl on his counter. And
when was that?
In August.
In August?
Yeah.
Before you moved?
I found this number.
Okay.
So I showed him, and I was going crazy, and I asked him what it was, and he wanted to grab it from me so bad. He didn't want me to get the number. Well, I put it into my phone while I was telling him.
So you knew that he had somebody else when you moved to New Mexico?
Yes. I just had found out then. I didn't know. He was deceiving me the whole time.
But you knew he had somebody else when you moved to New Mexico?
No, actually, he told me, no, that's an old number, and we don't talk.
No.
Which I don't believe.
No. But you knew better.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Unfortunately, raised 3 probably neurotic children because of the behavior of both of you.
Actually, 4. I was raising her kids she had from someone else while we were married.
And later today,
David had shoved me into the fridge. I called the police. We went to sleep in separate rooms that night, woke up the next morning, and it was the same scene. I had been shoved into the same refrigerator. I called the police again.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Leyva says ex-husband Larry Cordova owes for the cost to move. Michelle says Larry left her for another woman.
So when you went to New Mexico, you had some reservations as to whether or not he was going to come with you, right?
Yeah, he was supposed to be there.
I said you had reservations, which means that you weren't sure that he was going to come with you because he had somebody else.
Well, I left my daughter behind because she had a broken foot. I left her behind, and he said, that's fine. She'll come up when I come. He was supposed to come on that Sunday.
So who brought her?
He called and told me 2 nights before he was supposed to leave he wasn't coming. She was stuck there. I had no money to go back. He wasn't going to give me no money because he hasn't given me child support for about 5 months. I called my brother, and my brother came, and he brought her.
When did you get married, Mr. Cordova?
September.
Why don't you pay child support?
I do. As a matter of fact, she said she was going to try to make me look like a deadbeat dad, so I requested a balance from the
Can I see it, please?
County of Adams County Department of Social Services.
How much are you supposed to send every week or month?
They automatically take it out of my checks. It's $94.
A week?
A month.
A month. And that's because of when we got.
I'm speechless.
Well, no.
I mean,
when my children lived here, they were with me all the time.
No, they weren't.
Well, just a second. Shh. But
and
they're not with you now.
That was how the parenting plan was.
Shh, listen to me. But they're not with you now.
They're not. And
I didn't ask you anything.
And that's being resolved in the courts.
You have 3 children. How do you expect her to survive and support 3 children and work with $94 a month? And how dare you get married again? I'm speaking. And start another family when you have somebody who, when you have prior responsibility.
I taking care of my kids, and
no, you're not.
She moved, and I mean, we're resolving that in the courts now. So,
Mr. Cordova, listen to me very carefully, sir. Are you contesting her move to New Mexico?
No,
that requires a yes or a no.
I wasn't
Do you know what
against
that
her
means?
moving. Yes, I wasn't against her moving.
So you were in favor of her moving?
I was not in favor of her moving either. I didn't have a choice. The only choice I had was to move out there, and I wasn't going to do that.
No, sure you did. You said that her father came up to believe you, Mr. Cordova. Her father came up, and you spoke about her moving down there with her father, going to move into a house, and that's what she would like to do. You didn't say, I told her I didn't want her to move and take my children away.
Oh, I told her I didn't want her to take
I didn't
my
hear
children.
that. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that then. I didn't hear that in your voice, Mr. Cordova.
Why?
How much do you earn?
About $4,100 a month.
You make $4,000 a month, and you support your 3 children to the tune of $94 a month?
Correct.
That's outrageous, sir. That's outrageous. I hope they get you good.
They are.
I hope they get you good. And I would make sure that there's a whole bunch of birth control in your house so that you don't have any more children until you learn to take care of these 3. Because you may have started out when you were 2 babies, but unfortunately raised 3 probably neurotic children because of the behavior of both of you.
Actually, 4. I was raising her kids she had from someone else while we were married.
How old was she when your first child was born?
16. I was 15.
You were 15.
16.
And how old were you?
18, I think. 18, 19. I think. 19. 18.
19. And she was 15. That's big trouble. That could be big trouble. So, I would take a whole bunch of birth control, sir. Make sure. And, you know, you have to either swallow it or use it in order for it to work. Do you understand?
Yes.
I don't know what your problem is, but you make choices in this world, and your choice was that you moved to New Mexico to be near your father.
Because he deceived. I only moved because of him.
It's been a lifetime of deception.
Well,
Madam.
I wouldn't. I'd be at home in my place with my kids where they were
Well, then
settled
let me
in.
tell you this. Then move back home. I mean, you also have some responsibility. You are how old now?
27.
27, and you have 4 children. Is that right?
Yes.
That is enough children.
Yes.
You have enough children. Now you have to work on supporting them and taking care of them.
That's what I'm doing.
You have no case against Mr. Cordova, madam, and you have to get used to that. The only thing you have to get used to is paying more money. And if I were you, I would start paying it before somebody makes an order for me to pay it, because if you came before me and said you had 3 children and you make $4,000 a month and you're forking over $94 a month, I would torture you. We understand each other?
Yes.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think she made the right decision. I did not deceive her like she's saying.
He knows in his heart what he did.
She's mad that I got married, and she always thought we would be back together someday, and that's not what happened.
It's fine. It's not over.
Whenever I've been in any kind of relationship, she's tried to ruin it or destroy it.
He's not there for my kids at all.
I'm happy, and I want her to move on with her life and be happy.
He'll get what's coming to him. That's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Wilson versus Lavarius. Step forward, please.
25-year-old bartender Ben Wilson is suing his ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old retail salesperson David Lavarius, for breaking an apartment lease. David says Ben became violent, so he moved out.
Mr. Wilson, you and Mr. Lavarius were in a relationship and decided to lease an apartment.
Yes.
Mr. Lavarius's name was not on the lease, only yours.
Yes.
According to you, you had an oral agreement that he would pay for half the rent.
And a sublet agreement, a written sublet agreement.
Good. Which I will look at. And it is your claim that he moved out and that he should pay you for his half of the year's rent for the duration of the lease. Mr. Lavarius says you got into a fight, you called the police, it was clear you didn't want him there, so he doesn't have to pay a thing.
Right.
Where'd you get this sublet agreement?
That was from my landlord. David had a bad renter history, and the landlord and I both wanted him to be legally responsible for the apartment. So she decided that the best way to go about doing that was to have him fill out a sublet agreement.
It's not binding. It doesn't contain all the terms and provisions of this document. When you want a legal document that withstands legal scrutiny, you're supposed to go to a lawyer, not a landlord. So you had, according to you, an arrangement with Mr. Lavarius that despite the fact that you were on the lease, that he was going to pay half the rent. Is that your agreement with him?
Yes.
Is that his agreement with you?
Yes.
Yes, that's good. And you moved into the apartment when, Mr. Lavarius?
End of July.
When did you move out?
Mid-August.
Did you pay any rent at all?
Yes.
When?
No, he did not. His check said...
I'll get to you. Yes.
Yes, I did.
When?
So I started my job beginning of August. I paid him $200 first, and then the rest of the money that I paid him went toward his birthday party during the middle of the month.
That's not rent. Birthday party, not rent. Rent, birthday party. You paid him $200 according to you?
Yes.
Now, what happened August 20th?
August 20th, well, prior to that, we had gotten into a couple fights.
About?
Our scheduling wasn't right. He doesn't think, doesn't listen, so we had a little conflicts and disagreements, so it ended up physical.
On August 20th?
August 20th, I believe. The police were called twice.
When were they called for the first time, and who called them?
He called them both times.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, it is.
Why did you call the police?
David had shoved me into the fridge. I didn't want to push back because I'm a lot bigger than David. I didn't want to be in a position where I'm going to hurt David.
Big Nelly punk.
And he pushed me into the fridge, knocked over a bunch of stuff off the top of it. I ran outside and called the police. After I called the police, he ran outside after me saying, "You can't call them. I have warrants. I have warrants. I'll go to jail. Do you want me to go to jail?" That night, I had sent the police away, gotten them to leave. We went to sleep in separate rooms that night, woke up the next morning, and it was the same scene. I had been shoved into the same refrigerator. I called the police again.
Listen to me, Miss Lavarius.
Yes.
I don't want you to say anything until I look in your direction and ask you a question. I did ask you questions, and you gave me answers before. Is that right?
Yes.
And when he interrupted, I told him not to interrupt again, right?
Right.
You understand what that means?
Yes.
Don't interrupt him until I look at you.
Okay.
In the evening, he shoved you again.
Yeah, it was actually the next afternoon. He shoved me again. I called the police again, and when the police came a second time, they said, "We have to press charges for this."
So?
And he ran away from the house because he had these warrants. He actually just got picked up on Sunday for these warrants.
You called the police, and it was your hope and expectation that the police would put him out so that you could have the peaceful enjoyment of your apartment. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And you certainly don't want him to move back into your apartment, do you?
No, I don't. But I never would have gotten that apartment without having David's income. That was an apartment that I could not have afforded myself. I only got it because of the agreement that we had that he would pay rent.
He's not going to pay rent in a place where he can't live, sir. And you don't want him to live there. You feel threatened with him living there. That's why you called the police twice.
Threatened?
So, how long did you know Mr. Lavarius before you undertook this rent?
We met on June 9th. He didn't have anywhere to stay. He was
I didn't
kind of
ask for the
homeless.
whole story. I asked for a date.
We had known each other for 2 months.
What did he do for a living?
He had gotten, before August had started, he'd gotten a job at American Family Insurance.
In June?
In June, he was between jobs.
So he got a job when in July?
I believe it was the middle of July.
So for 4 weeks he was employed. Is that right?
Yes.
And you knew he had such bad credit that his name couldn't even go on a primary lease.
Right.
So that would give an intelligent person a clue that I wouldn't rent an apartment with this person that I know for 8 weeks, who's been unemployed for 4 weeks, who has a bad history of not paying rent. I wouldn't take an apartment with that person that I couldn't afford for myself.
He would.
Ugh.
Sorry.
And anyway, Mr. Wilson, you can't have it both ways. You have an apartment. Either he's your roommate and lives there or not. You don't want him there because you didn't like getting shoved around, and you didn't like fighting. You called the police twice. They came. They accommodated you. He took off, and that's exactly what you want. So don't come to court to complain about it. You got what you wanted. You have your apartment all to yourself.
Step forward, please.
Jacqueline Hayes says she never got paid for babysitting Michelle Normandine's daughter. They used to be friends.
Order, all rise. Yeah, it's number 82 on the calendar in the matter of Hayes versus Normandin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Hayes, you claim the defendant owes you $430 for babysitting that you did for her daughter.
Correct.
How did you find her as a babysitter?
Well, we were very good friends at the time.
And?
And we were very good friends, and she moved into the front house, my boyfriend's rental house, and her rent was raised up.
So she was your boyfriend's tenant?
Right. And her rent was up a little bit from where she was living, and it made it more difficult for her to be able to pay the daycare that she was paying, which she told me was $80 a week. And she asked me one day if I would do it for $50 a week. And I agreed. I agreed.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to have your turn. Go ahead.
I agreed because I'm a single mother. I was not working. I needed the money, and I wanted to try and help her out because we were friends, and I thought it was helping each other out.
So you started to babysit?
Uh-huh.
How long did you babysit?
I'd say approximately about 10 weeks. I did not...
Approximately?
It was a 10-week period. I don't know I know it was from May to July, but I didn't pay attention because it was through friends. It was just a verbal agreement. I didn't document the exact dates, but I was counting the weeks as they went on.
Did you babysit every day?
I believe it's 3 to 4 days a week.
According to your complaint, months went by or weeks went by and there was no payment.
And then I started asking for a payment, and she told me that she hadn't received the check from her husband's company yet for her child support. And so I said, okay, well, I'll continue. And then as time went on, she started bringing things home that she was buying and such and showing them to me. And I would ask her for $20 one day because I didn't have any money to feed my child that night, and she didn't have any money to give me. So I said, well, you know, I'm going to have to discontinue the daycare because I need some money too, and I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. So then I discontinued the daycare. We stopped speaking for a while.
Is that why you stopped speaking?
Basically. We stopped speaking for a while, and then one day I came home and found $70 cash in an envelope, unmarked envelope, on my door. I assumed it came from her. So...
Did it?
Yes, it did. So after a while, I thought, you know, the pressure, the tension was just too much. Living next to each other, we were friends. I wanted us to remain friends. And so I asked again if she could give me any more money towards the outstanding balance, and I sent her a collection letter at that time. And she didn't respond because I sent it certified and there was no pickup. So we stopped speaking once again, and I sent her this collection letter, in which I have, if you'd like to read it. And this one states basically the whole story. And it's very nice, it's very professional, and I just wanted her to know that I was serious, that I would go file a claim if she didn't make some type of compensation.
Well, but I need more specific dates from you than you've given me about May.
I just know from May to July.
Well, the beginning of May, the middle of May.
So, yeah, I would say the middle of May through July.
Now it's your turn.
I have receipts from the daycares that she was going to. Jackie offered to watch her. She volunteered to watch her a couple days a week to help me out because I was not receiving child support yet from my soon-to-be ex-husband.
Okay.
There was no set rate. There was no set days. There was no set weeks. She would always offer to cook, and she loved to barbecue. She'd have people over whenever at her boyfriend's house. I have, you know, well, there was no 10 weeks. There was maybe the most 2.5 weeks at the most.
I disagree with that
fully. And she was paid $70.
Well, let me see. You say you have receipts from daycare during the periods of part of May, June, and July.
Right. My grandma has always watched my daughter from day one.
I mean, are you saying that this was not a daycare, this was your grandmother?
My grandmother watched, no, she started off watching her when I first got a job.
I'm talking about during that period of time.
Yes,
during this period of
times
time,
that she stated,
May, June, and July.
Yes, I have receipts.
From whom?
From the daycare my daughter goes to.
From a professional daycare
Correct.
person or daycare
Yes.
provider. Can I see them, please? How many days a week were you working at that time?
5 days a week.
And how many days a week was your daughter going to daycare, this professional daycare?
The professional one, 3 days a week, and my grandmother would watch her 2 days.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about grandma. Well, you have something here that seems to be a full balance with tuition and how many payments you made starting August 6th.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that from?
That's from the school she goes to right now, Sherry's preschool.
And this is August of '96 that you're referring to.
No, see, the week that I discontinued the daycare, she started going to
someplace
Sherry's.
else. Well, that's what this seems to say, August of '96. But I have to have some more specifics from you, Ms. Hayes. And that is, how many days a week?
I want to say it was 3 days, sometimes 4. Her grandmother did take her, I believe it was on Tuesdays.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
I had her at least 3 days a week, sometimes 4.
For full days?
For full days. I was at her house at 7 in the morning, and she would pick her up between 5 and 5:30 in the evening.
So you went to pick her up?
I would pick her up, yes.
She volunteered to do this so that way also her son has someone to play with.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe that that's true, Miss Normandin.
No, I never said it was for free.
Right. I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that you watch
She was
another
paid
child.
$70. It wasn't for free.
Listen to me. I don't believe that you watch another child for 10 hours. How old is your daughter?
She's 3.
You don't watch a 3-year-old for 10 hours without being compensated, even for a friend.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She gave a phone number also.
So, what do you expect me to do? You want me to get off the bench and go call her?
Jacqueline Hayes says she never got paid for babysitting Michelle Normandine's daughter. They used to be friends.
You have shown me a receipt that you started the daycare, formal daycare, in August, which pretty much coincides with what the plaintiff says. Therefore, I believe that you did have an arrangement, and your arrangement was to pay her $50, which I think was more than generous, on a 10-hour day watching a child, a 3-year-old toddler. You paid her $70. Certainly, in June and July alone, we have 4 1/3 weeks. That's almost 10 weeks right there. Part of May, you said, the middle of May, even giving her the benefit of the doubt that you started the end of May. That is your 10 weeks.
But here she was at Brenda's daycare, family daycare in Torrance until June 14th.
Listen to me. I don't believe that for 2 reasons. First of all, it's on a plain piece of paper, and I don't know who wrote it. Somebody who runs a business, a daycare center, a formal daycare center, has a letterhead. They have a letterhead that says this is what they are. They're licensed, right? This is on a plain piece of paper. I could have typed that in my den last night.
She gave a phone number also.
So, what do you expect me to do? You bring a witness. You want me to get off the bench and go call her? If I went and called her, would she tell me that in the entire month of June, your daughter was there 5 days a week? Is that what she would tell me?
She didn't say the whole entire month of June.
Just a second. Maybe that's a good idea. If I went and called this lady, whose telephone number appears here, would she tell me that in the month of June, your daughter was there 5 days a week?
Not 5 days a week. No, my grandmother watched her the remaining other 2 days.
I don't believe that.
Well.
Your grandmother lives clearly in this area. If you had a witness, you bring a witness.
She has hip problems. That's why she continues to not watching her no more. That's why she goes to daycare full time.
Hip problem doesn't prevent you from coming to court. Hip problem may prevent you from running after a 3-year-old toddler, but doesn't prevent you from coming to court. It's just convenient. All right. She owes you $500. She paid you $70. $430. Did I get that right, Bird?
You got it right.
$430?
That was very quick.
$430.
Judgment is for the plaintiff for $430.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was very hard living next door to each other. Our kids wanted to play together. They weren't able to because we weren't speaking. It was very, very difficult. I enjoyed her daughter. She's a wonderful girl. And I really enjoyed the time. But I needed to be paid as well as I was trying to save her money. Friends need to really take a look at each other and just show more respect for the ones that really care.
And now, the next case.
Parties on. Costanza versus Altshuler. Step forward.
Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altshuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
You two gals were former roommates, shared an apartment together. According to your complaint, your former roommate owes you for half a month's rent and half the security on an apartment that you shared together.
Yes.
You say that you gave her a check for your half of the month's rent. So far, is that correct?
Right.
And that she was supposed to pay the entire month's rent. You wrote a check for the entire month's rent. You gave it to the landlord, correct?
Correct.
And then you had a fight and you stopped payment on the check.
Well, it wasn't like a fight. It was when I decided to give her notice that I would be moving out at the end of the month.
But you stopped payment on the check.
After her threats and...
I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to the fluff of this story in a minute. But bottom line, you stopped payment on the check and you kept the money, right?
Right.
Which included the half that she had given you.
Right.
Well, why'd you do that for?
Because I took my part of the security deposit and paid the rest of the bills that she mailed back to my parents' house.
Well, but you can't do that. She gave you the money to pay the rent.
And I had full intentions of paying the rent until she just completely blew up and threatened me, saying that I couldn't step foot anywhere near there. And so that's when I decided to stop.
Let's go back. How long did you live together?
A month.
All right, what happened? What was your argument about? When did it take place?
Well, I'm not sure what the threats are, but we had a dispute when she told me she was moving out. I guess I was upset that she was moving out, and I said, well, you know, you have to pay the rent. She said she would, and she did for about 2 weeks. And then,
how did she pay the rent for 2 weeks?
Well, she paid the rent and then stopped payment. I found out at the end of the month.
The end of the second month?
Yes, July. My landlady had informed me that the payment was stopped on the check and that I needed to repay the rent or someone was responsible. And I told her to return the keys, and she would not. I said, you don't live there. I think that you need to give them back. She took about a month.
Was she living in the apartment at the time?
No.
So this was after that all happened?
It was like the same day that she had moved all her stuff out. I called and said, you need to return the keys.
I see. And what day of the month was that?
July 2nd.
And this was the rent for the month of July?
Yes.
When she wasn't going to be there, but you had already given her your half of the rent for that month?
Yes. On June 30th, I believe it was.
Okay. And how much was the security deposit that you put into the apartment?
It was $500 total, $250 each.
And how much was your part of the rent?
$307.50.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Two people who don't love each other should never room together.
Right.
But that's always a terrible beginning to a live-in situation. That's what keeps me in business.
Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altshuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
I had full intentions of paying the month's rent. I told her on July 1st that I would be moving out at the end of the month. She freaked out, so I moved all my stuff out that day with still full intentions of paying the month's rent. And then she started to, you know, that's when she asked for the keys. I mailed the keys. They came back to me. Then I mailed them again certified so that she would receive them. She, she just said that I couldn't step foot near there. Why would I pay a month's rent if I wasn't allowed to, you know, go anywhere near there?
I'm not even talking about your part of the month's rent. Let's not even talk about that. Let's talk about the money she gave you to pay for July. You kept that.
for my part of the security deposit.
But maybe you weren't going to get back the security deposit if you were breaking your lease without any notice.
It was a month-to-month.
But you're supposed to give notice even on a month-to-month.
That was my mistake. I didn't give notice to the landlord. I gave notice to her, and I know that. That was my mistake.
But you're supposed to give notice, because if you don't give notice, then everybody loses the security deposit. What happened with the security deposit?
It was forfeited for July's rent, and there's still $115 outstanding. I have the lease here that she signed.
Can I take a look at it?
And it says on a month-to-month tenancy there. It's highlighted.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You signed the lease. The lease says you're supposed to give the landlord 30 days notice. You didn't give the landlord 30 days notice because you said you moved out on the 2nd of July.
Right.
Well, even if you gave the landlord 30 days notice, that wouldn't be until the 2nd of August. Right?
Right.
So whether you gave her notice or whether you gave the landlord notice, you're still responsible for that rent. You are responsible for the rent for that month. Did you move into another apartment?
No, I moved back into my parents' house.
Got to read everything really carefully. How old are you?
19.
Okay. So it's a good lesson. You understand that?
Yes, but her side also, when you have someone that's threatening you bodily harm and spitting on you and stuff, and you want to get your money back, you understand that she tried to do it right. She paid the rent even though she was moving out. Granted, because she didn't do it to the landlord, it's wrong.
Stand up here.
Just because she didn't do it to the landlord, we agree that's wrong, but when someone threatens bodily harm and tries to spit on her...
I am pregnant.
You were.
And you were not there.
We have every message, word by word, written down.
Are you Miss Alchula?
O'Brien.
Oh, Miss O'Brien. Two people who don't love each other should never room together.
Right.
Right? I don't know how long these young ladies knew each other before they decided to move in together. I don't know what the circumstances were. But that's always a terrible beginning to a live-in situation. That's what keeps me in business, these roommate situations.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altschuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
The plaintiff did, in fact, give her half of the rent, $307.50. The deposit, the security deposit, was forfeited because they didn't give 30 days notice to the landlord. When did you finally leave the apartment?
My last day would have been August 9th. I went through the walkthrough with her, with my landlady. I moved out, I think, on the 5th. I had another place I was moving into.
So it's because she used it for rent, as opposed to Darlena knew once she threatened her that she's never going to give her a deposit back. So what we should have done...
Who are you?
I'm her friend, and I've been there a lot more than she has. Darlena's mom was not there while any of this was going on, supposedly threatening. And I think Darlena's old enough to take care of herself. And I think, she's pregnant. Okay, if there's any threatening, it's verbal, and you can deal with verbal since you've done the same thing back. And I'm sorry, but you weren't there. I was there. I was there.
Oh, so you listened to the messages?
No, I
Everyone
was there.
that
I've
Claire
heard the
made?
message that she left to Claire.
That's funny because I was there when she
Listen
I
to
think
me.
Darlena's
Listen
a
to
good
me.
adult. She can
Listen
do
to
it
me.
herself.
Your daughter made a poor choice of roommates.
Right.
She didn't get hurt. She safely moved back into the house. You cross it off to a bad experience and you learn from it. That's what you teach children as they're growing up. If you make a bad move, you try to learn from it and not recreate those mistakes as you get older. So the next time she will look further into the background of a roommate. And I'm not saying there was anything wrong with you. I'm just saying if that's the case, you look further before you jump into a situation where you expose yourself to living with somebody that you really don't know. She should learn from this experience. And the experience is going to cost her, I'm so bad in math, $557.50. Judgment is for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Parties on Opp versus Gallagher. Step forward, please.
29-year-old Julie Opp and her boyfriend, John Gallagher, a private investigator, drove to Mexico so Julie could live out a private fantasy, to dance in a strip club. But when the time came, John got jealous and a fight erupted at the border.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please. All rise. Judge, it's number 7 on the calendar in the matter of Opp versus Gallagher. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Well, this is some story, depending upon the version. Bottom line, Miss Opp, you are suing the defendant, Mr. Gallagher, because you say he assaulted you on a recent trip to Mexico.
Yes.
Why you were there is somewhat in dispute. We'll get to that in a minute. He says that you assaulted him first. Something that you don't really deny in your papers.
Yes, I did.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Were you his girlfriend?
We were girlfriend and boyfriend.
For how long? Before you took this trip, this fateful
Probably
trip?
a year and a half.
What were you doing in Mexico?
We originally went down there to get him some steroids and some medicine that takes you off of steroids.
Nope, that's not true, Your Honor.
Well, I'll get you in a second. All right, so tell me when you left. You left for Mexico on what day of the week?
We left on the 17th. I don't remember what day of the week that was.
Oh, was it on a weekend?
I don't even remember.
Were you planning on spending a few days there?
No, we just went there for the day to pick up his steroids.
So you left in the morning?
Yeah.
What time did you get there?
I think it was around 10.
In the
11.
morning?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Tell me about the day.
We got there and we went to the pharmacy to look for his stuff, and he wanted to find a doctor where he could get his steroids, and that took an hour or two, and then we went, had some tacos, drank a few beers, and basically that took a couple more hours. Then we went to a strip bar. We had previously talked about me dancing, and I said no, I'm not comfortable
Well, tell me
with
if
it.
that's what I don't. That's what I find so interesting about this case. You went to a few strip bars and you talked about you dancing.
Well, before we went to the strip bar, we talked about it.
What was the conversation?
He wanted to see me dancing.
No. Oh.
Go ahead.
He wanted to see me dance because it was kind of like a fantasy thing between us. He just wanted to see it. I wasn't a dancer. He'd never seen me on a stage, and I told him if I did do it, I would need to drink a lot in order to get up there. And so we went to the strip bar. I drank a lot, and
you got pretty drunk?
I don't really get drunk because I get sick really easy, but I got tipsy, definitely. I had to relax in order to do it.
Okay.
And so I drank. He said, come on, keep doing it, go do it. And finally I did it. I went up there and I danced. And when I got down...
At the strip bar?
Yes. And
Bambi's.
Do you have to, I mean, can anybody just go there and do this? Do you have to ask a manager?
Anybody can do it. There was other American girls there doing it too. And there was a bunch of Marines. It wasn't...
Okay. Feels foolish now, doesn't it?
I'd never done it before.
Oh, okay.
And it was supposed to be something private between him and I, and it didn't end up that way.
So what happened? You danced?
I danced. I was done. We went to another bar, and he's like, do it here, and we're sitting there, and there was a girl dancing in front of us, and he says, give me $1, I want to tip her. I said, I'm not going to give you $1 to tip her. Use your own money. And we got into an argument from that point on. So we walked out of the strip bar, and we're arguing on the street, and he called me a whore, and I said, how could you call me a whore? You're the one who talked me into doing this. And he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I shouldn't have said that. Hit me. And I go, no. And he goes, hit me, you're a whore. And he just kept saying it. Finally, I hit him. I mean, we were arguing. It wasn't just a calm thing.
So you hit him?
So I hit him.
Where'd you hit him?
I'm sorry?
Where did you hit him?
In the face.
One time or more than one time?
One time, and then he called me a whore and told me, hit me again. So I hit him one more time. And then we grabbed a taxi.
3 times.
And then we grabbed a taxi, and we were driving back because we were going to get in trouble at that point. And he started calling me a whore again. So instead of hitting him, I grabbed my clog off my foot and hit him over the head. So I went and hit him in the face. But tempers were not good, and he kept calling me a whore. And
he was pretty drunk too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
you get to the border.
We get to the border, and things have calmed down. We're back on this side. It's kind of over. I said I had to go to the bathroom before we go back, and in the parking lot where you park, there's a public restroom, and we went in there, and he starts arguing, and he's talking about it, and I said, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to argue. It's over. Let's just go home. It's been a bad day. And I tried to get out of the bathroom because I was done, and he wouldn't let me out of the bathroom. He kept arguing with me. And so I went to open the door, unlock the door, and get out. So it was hot and stinky. It's gross in there. And he wouldn't let me out. Finally, he grabbed me, and he pulled me away from the door and shoved me against the wall. And then that's when the back of my head hit the wall, and I passed out. And he was yelling at me, stop it, you're faking it, you're faking it. And I was looking at him saying, I'm not faking it, I'm passing out right now. And I was slumping down to the ground. And when I came to, because I kind of went out, when I came to, I noticed my hearing was gone. And then I became hysterical because I didn't know what was wrong. I'd never even heard of a ruptured eardrum. I didn't know what it was. I thought I had gone deaf for some reason. And I started screaming to him. We walked back to the car. He finally let me out, and we started to drive away. I said, take me to a hospital. This isn't normal. There's something wrong with me. Take me to a hospital. And he said, no, I'm not, you're fine. You're faking it. And so I grabbed my cellular phone because he wasn't going to take me to the hospital to dial 911, and he grabbed the phone and wouldn't let me call. And so because he wouldn't go to the hospital, I opened the door and pretended I was going to jump out. In order to let him know that I was serious, I needed to go to the hospital.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She would remain anonymous. No one would find out about this, and she could let her inhibitions go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie Opp is suing ex-boyfriend John Gallagher, claiming he punctured her eardrum during a fight over her amateur stripping debut.
So you have medical bills that you want him to pay for?
Yes.
What were your medical bills?
One's the doctor's bill, which is $228.64. One is the lab bill, which is $267.24. And then there's the emergency hospital bill, which is $1,306.
Okay, Mr. Gallagher. You had enough water, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Go to the bathroom.
Let's hear your story. You went to Mexico.
I'll tell you the real version of the story. Actually, it started about a week before the date we went down. I can't recall the date, but the week prior, she had gone down to Mexico with a girlfriend named Melissa, done the same thing. She had been flirting with the idea of possibly trying, dancing at nightclubs. And, can't blame her. She's, pretty attractive and can make a lot of money at it. So they had gone down and came back and told me the story how she had gotten up on stage. And I don't think she actually meant to, but she ended up getting up on stage, and she made a bunch of money. And she was kind of excited. And it probably was a fantasy thing also, but we decided to go down on that Saturday.
How much is a bunch of money? I'm just
She
curious.
had a lot of crinkle $1 bills, but I'm sure more than 100 of them.
$80. $80. It's not a lot of money.
She's probably on there for like 5 minutes and made $80.
This was before you made
I'd gone
$80
the
when you went
weekend
down there
before
with the girlfriend.
With my girlfriend, I told him about it, and he said, I want to do that. And we talked about it.
So
and
you
I
went
said,
down a
No,
week
she
before
wanted
with
to-
Chuck.
I said that I wasn't really comfortable with it.
But you went down a week before you made $80.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So she wanted me to go down with her
We're going
as...
to charge you for the water.
Can I get something better? So, a little nervous. She wanted me to go with her, partly as protection. Melissa couldn't go, and also fantasy thing. But we didn't go down in the morning, and we did not go down to buy steroids. It's a lie. We didn't go down to buy steroids. We actually went down. It was dark out when
Ask
we
him
were
to
driving.
take his jacket off.
Yeah. We went... while we were there, we did go down, but it wasn't in the morning. It was dark out. It was probably like 7 or 8 o'clock when we started driving down. She drove her car, and we did stop at the border, and we parked in that parking lot and took the red bus. It's just this red bus you take in. It's like a mile. It costs $1. And I did buy some pharmaceuticals there. They were not steroids. I didn't go down to buy steroids. Then we started drinking, and actually went to a taco bar across the street from the strip bars, and we had some beers and We went to, like, I think 2 other bars and drank a lot of tequila. We did get pretty drunk. And she got her courage up, and she really wasn't sure if she was going to do this, and maybe I did, you know, provoke her a little bit to do it. We went to the first bar, I think it was Bambi's. And arrangements were made for her to go on stage, and she went on the backstage.
So let me stop you. How were arrangements made? Look. How were arrangements made for her to go on the stage?
I was kind of like her agent.
Well, Mr. Gallagher, that's a conclusion, sir. Tell me exactly what you did to make these arrangements.
Grabbed one of the guys, like the Mexican guys that worked there that spoke English, and said she wants to dance. And then at first they look at her and like, yeah, but they try to play hardball. No, you know, we can't have her up. And we negotiate back and forth.
What do you negotiate about?
Just to get her on, you know.
What negotiating usually involves money.
Yeah, well, she's going to make money.
So let me hear.
He wanted free
drinks.
drinks.
Oh, free beers for me.
Just a second. So you negotiated with one of the proprietors, or...
I drank free, she got to dance. That was the negotiation. Oh, she gave drink free too, that was a given. And so we negotiated she was going to go on the backstage. I think she wanted to get on the front stage where she would make more money and have more exposure, this little room in the back with a small backstage. She gets up there and takes her clothes off, and hell breaks loose. I mean, they can't believe what they're seeing. She's very beautiful. I mean, the whole bar moves to the back where it's getting crowded while she's dancing and going off. And I mean, bottles start flying, and people are like getting so close to each other. And I mean, it was like a madhouse. And she starts, you know, dancing. And I got, you know, kind of jealous of her, you know, to see her doing that.
So you got angry?
I got angry and I got jealous. It was painful. No, I didn't get angry. I tried to keep in perspective. Tried to. And,
but you had a lot of booze.
We were getting drunk. We were drinking.
Well, she wasn't drinking when she was up there dancing, but you were continuing to drink when she was
drinking when she got down, though.
But you were drinking while she was dancing.
Yeah, but not as much as her.
She came down and you got angry. Tell me what happened.
No, I didn't get angry. When she came down, we decided to go to another bar where she could do the same thing because it was kind of wearing thin there and it got kind of violent. They were going crazy when they saw her. So we went to a bar next door.
Were you fond of this lady?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not rigid. Maybe it's my puritanical upbringing. You know, that's not funny. That's not meant to be funny, sir. I just don't understand a man who would encourage. In fact, I think she's nuts for wanting to do it in the first place.
Well,
but a man who would encourage someone who he's fond of, negotiate, act as her agent.
Well, I make sure she's okay, you know, and nothing would take place. I wasn't going to let anyone hurt her.
That's not what I'm talking about, sir. Usually there's a certain proprietary interest that men have in their women and women have in men that they like.
It was in
I
the
don't
secrecy.
quite understand you.
It was in the secrecy of Mexico where she would remain...
Order.
She would remain anonymous. No one would find out about this, and she could let her inhibitions go. And
his inhibition.
All right. Yours
she
too.
drugged me down there.
You went there before without him?
Yes.
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 Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That sounds pretty reasonable to me. Both acted like idiots.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Gallagher admits he became jealous when his girlfriend Julia danced in a strip club, but he says he didn't mean to cause the injury to her eardrum.
I want you to tell me she assaulted you because you called her a whore. Is that right?
In the second bar, I made the horrible mistake of calling her a whore. I did.
Okay. And tell me about the assault that took place on you.
Well, first, she lied because I didn't just hand the girl money. I was standing there, I felt guilty. I'm next to this girl dancing, and I took one of her dollar bills that she had just earned of hundreds, and I gave her one, and she got jealous and was pissed off.
Were you injured when she hit you?
The first 2 times she's hitting like a girl, it didn't hurt, and I did say, yeah, you hit like a girl, hit me again. She hit me again. Third time, she belted me so hard, my lip just exploded. Blood was coming out. And it almost knocked me down. Believe it or not, she can hit pretty good.
Okay, and what about hitting you with the clog in your head? Just
well,
hit you with the clog.
Federales are coming, and it's an urgency, so they stuff us in a cab, and we're driving, but we just keep arguing in the cab, arguing back and forth, and she hits me in the back of the head with a clog, and I barely remember that, except the next day I had a big bump on my head. We get through the United States, like she said, we go to the parking lot to use the bathroom before wherever we're going to go. We're going to drive. We're both drunk. And she gets passionate again. We start arguing. We had moments of calm and fury where we kind of calm down. And she's that way. She can fight good. So You know, I'm going to tell you the truth.
You
I
better
was
tell me.
drunk at the time. I can't remember every detail that occurred, but I know that she was starting to get angry again, and I don't know if she was going to hit me or I thought she was going to hit me or she tried to. Can't remember, but I know that I grabbed her and I picked her up, and she was wrestling, and she went limp.
This was in the bathroom?
In the bathroom. And she was flailing, and I was drunk, and I didn't know that she hit her head. She just went limp in my hands. And she sunk down to the ground on her butt. And she sat there and looked up at me, and then she started to say she couldn't hear. And I really thought she was embellishing something. I didn't believe her at first, and she started to cry and scream and get more hysterical. And I didn't believe that she was hurt.
Ultimately, you took her to the hospital.
Now, ultimately, we ended up at the hospital. Her injuries are obviously real. The doctor found out that she had a bruise here in the back of her left ear, I think. Left ear, and she was, I don't know if she lost hearing or not.
What did you originally offer to pay her to
When the bills
help
came,
offset?
we'd split it.
You'd split it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable
That's
to
why I
me.
asked
Both
him to-
acted like idiots. It sounds pretty reasonable to me that you should split it.
She probably did hit her head as a result of me lifting her up. I don't think on purpose. I know on purpose I didn't try to hurt her.
After you arrived back in the United States and after this whole incident, did you continue to see each other?
Yes.
For how long?
About 4 more months until I kept catching him cheating on me. So I finally...
So you saw each other for 4 months after that? You had already gotten these bills?
Yes, I'd gotten it, and he's given me $25 on those
50.
bills.
I gave you 50.
25.
Did you ever take up this dancing as an occupation?
That's
Yes.
what I'm doing now.
Good, too.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie Opp wants her former boyfriend, John Gallagher, to pay the medical bills for an injury he caused when he became jealous over her appearance in a Tijuana strip club.
I read medical bills at $1,800.
And then also, I was suing him for $300 because I had to get a restraining order against him.
That's your problem. Listen to me. Miss Opp, I think you made a big mistake. I think this whole escapade in Mexico was a big mistake, and I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying to you that getting drunk, and engaging in bar dancing with your boyfriend is not something that's designed to solidify a relationship in normal terms. Maybe I'm missing something. My kids might say to me, you know, you're operating in the 40s and 50s and 60s, Mother, but I don't think so. I think still people who care for each other don't want to see other people slipping dollar bills in somebody's panties.
It wasn't that
Do you
bad.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sir, and certainly not acting as their agent, which is, to me, almost like acting under these circumstances like a pimp.
It was pretty innocent.
It's pretty nasty. So you ought to pay for, I'm not going to have him pay for the whole thing. You contributed to this ridiculousness. And as it happens, I believe that you contributed to it even more than you initially told me you did, because you went down there before with a girlfriend, which is something that you didn't tell me right away. You said you had never done anything like this before. Right? Isn't that what you told me?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
so your medical bills, you didn't have any medical bills from being clocked by her, did you?
No.
No. All right. Your medical bills were $1,800, and you're going to pay for half. So the judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And on the next...
Hoài versus Alexander. Step forward, please.
28-year-old model Tanya Fry claims professional photographer Sean Alexander sexually harassed her during a studio session and did not return her slides. Sean's witness, Vanessa Gill, says he's a total professional.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Judge, number 42 on the calendar in the matter of Fry versus Alexander. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You're a model?
Yes.
Aspiring?
Yes.
So you have to smile. Mr. Alexander, you're a photographer.
Yes, I am.
You needed pictures?
Yes.
You hired him to take pictures?
Yes.
Now you're suing him?
Yes.
for $1,000. Right? That's what you said.
They went up to $2,000 as of this morning.
Well, the papers that I have are for $1,000.
Good.
So why don't you tell me about this arrangement and why you think he owes you any money?
Well, he didn't agree to what we agreed in the first
Where
place.
did you meet him? Let's start with that.
The modeling management. Model. It's a model management.
Is that a company?
Agency.
An agency?
Modeling agency.
Was he referred to you by someone?
Well, he was there with my manager, and he showed me his pictures, his book, which was really good, that he took of other models. And yes, they did tell me his work was good. So, yes.
And what was the arrangement, the financial arrangement that you had with him?
I had to pay him, he said $250.
I didn't hear you.
It was $250, and that was for the photo shoot. I was getting 2 rolls of pictures.
You were getting 2 rolls of pictures, or he was shooting 2 rolls of
He
pictures?
was going to shoot 2 rolls of film. He said I would get 2 rolls, which would be 72 pictures that I would get. Okay.
That you would get to keep?
That I would get, yes. That's what you do when you take pictures. You get your proof sheet, you get your negatives, and your slides.
And what else was he supposed to give you for this $250?
Well, after I received the pictures from him, he does other things, or he does half of the job, you know, like the background change or the eye change or different things he do extra to the pictures. So that
he
would be
touches
extra
them up.
amount, right? Extra amount of money.
I know about that.
Okay, extra amount of money. So I paid for 4, which was $100. He said, and I had those 4.
4 photographs that you paid for out of your contact sheets.
This was
And that was $25 a piece, or another $100?
It was $100 for 4. Okay, I received those. Then we went back to the pictures. He brought some of the pictures. He said I would need 7 or 8 more pictures. So we picked 7 more pictures.
7 additional ones?
Additional ones.
At what cost?
$175. And then, because at the photo shoot, he only took cash. For these 4 pictures, he only took cash. He said only cash. Okay, so with these additional ones, only had a checkbook, and I had no more money. So I post-dated the check. He didn't want to take it, but before I left, he said he would take the check. So I post-dated the $175 check for those 7 additional pictures that have
How long did you post-date the check for?
It was, about a week, because it was, the week Thursday, and it was next Thursday, so it was a week.
Okay.
Which he had cashed it before the post-dated check. You understand? I didn't know they can do that, but
I didn't know either.
But he did, because I called the bank.
Okay.
Because I did not receive those 7 pictures, and I had been calling him, and he wouldn't return my phone calls to get me those pictures.
So that's what you're suing him for?
Yeah, for those pictures, and then the slides that I want also. The rest of my pictures, the slides.
You want the contact sheets and the negatives?
Yes.
Now, sir, let's start with the 7 pictures first. You cashed your check for $175?
Yes, I did.
And that was for 7 pictures?
7 pictures.
Where are 7 pictures?
They're right here.
Take them out.
I mean, I have no problem with their testimony all the way to the end.
Okay.
Because, you know, she's just about right. I mean, we had an agreement, and what happened was that she said, I went out of my way to make this arrangement for her. Starting from the beginning, I charge $150 a roll. 2 rolls, $150, times 2 is $300. She bargained it down, and she knows that. She said, I'd like to shoot with you. I've seen your work. It's great. I said, okay, you know what? I'll make it $250, but that's it. She comes to the shoot. We'll do 2 rolls. In the middle of the session, of course, when I'm shooting, I ask the client, I finished the rolls. Do you want to go on? And I added 1 extra roll, and I did not even charge her for it. And so I finished the job. She was very happy. When it came to the ordering, she just kept saying she doesn't have the money. I even went out of my way. What I did was I went ahead and printed the pictures without asking any money for it. And I said, you know what, I'm so confident that you're going to like the pictures, so I'll show you, just pay me when you pick it up. She saw it, she liked it, and she ordered some more. But then again, we had money problem. And she said, well, can I post the check? I said, sure you can. I mean, I know you're good for it. You've been paying me. I have no problem with her. She's a very nice lady. I mean, I don't know why we are even here. But But she posted the check, and I told her, I said, number one, your check is posted for a week. I have to wait until I cash it because, you know, I'm not going to print.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, and number two, I was going to go out of town for a week. I mentioned that to her, and I said, when I come back, I'll pick up the picture and I'll give it to you.
How long did it take you to do the other 7 pictures after she had given
Usually,
you the check? No, not usually. In this case, how long was it before you completed those pictures?
About a week to 10 days.
Okay. Can I see the photographs?
Sure.
I would really like to see them. Now, the only other thing that I have to ask you, sir, is about this arrangement where she would get all the negatives and the
It's not my practice whatsoever. I have hundreds of receipts here that I always mention on the bottom of my receipts. If they ask for it, I'll write it down. I do not include the picture. I do not include any negative or slides. It is just for the session. I charge $150 just to shoot. I even brought my witness that we just shot yesterday, and this is my just a very last and desperate attempt to get somebody, because I had somebody to show up today and she canceled. She had a shoot. I had a model who was supposed to be here.
Well, what is she going to tell me if she was testify?
She was going to actually just basically how I charge people and how we, you know, I usually, you know.
All I can tell you, Miss Fry, is these are terrific. Have you seen them?
I never see.
Well, I would love you to take a look at them. I think that they're really exceptional.
No, I've never said that he does good work, but I have another comment about the amount actually was $2,000. Posted in
Whether it was $2,000, I don't know what you're suing for $2,000 for. $1,000. Just a second. I don't know what you would be suing for $1,000 or $2,000 for.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He was behind me, okay, grabbing my rear, telling me again how attractive my butt looked, how good it looked, making all these sexual comments.
And later today,
Tying their shoelaces together, sir, is a far cry from using a cigarette lighter and setting somebody on fire.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Photographer Sean Alexander denies that he took liberties with model Tanya Fry during a photo session, and his witness Vanessa Gill says Sean has a spotless reputation.
Now you have all 7 pictures that you paid for.
Okay,
right? Just a second. Just a second. And I think that if you had not had a final written agreement with regard to these negatives, I would not award you the negatives, because I don't believe it's custom in the industry for a photographer to give away the value of his trade, because that means that you can take these negatives and go into any photocopy store and say, I want you to make me pictures. Well, that's how he makes his money, because $250 for a photo shoot is very reasonable, right?
More than reasonable.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So photographers make their money, professional photographers, over the other pictures that you keep ordering from them. So I think it's unreasonable for you to ask for those. He was supposed to shoot 2 rolls, and from those shot rolls, you were going to select other pictures that you were going to order. In this case, you ordered a total of 11
I even
pictures.
shot extra rolls.
Well, that wasn't said. The said was you'll get 72 pictures, which would be more than enough what you would need for your book. So
I still don't understand why you're suing him.
And I think she's suing...
Well,
I still don't understand why you're suing him for $2,000. Then we'll get to this watch that you're holding. Is that her watch?
Yeah,
Yes,
I think that's what it is, cost $2,000. I don't know. I mean,
And then-
Just a second. Was that left during the photo shoot?
Yes.
So give it back to her.
And then
Take your watch.
the other incident was the harassment.
What kind
during
of harassment?
The photo shoot, the sexual harassment.
I can't believe this.
That was.
All right, so you're suing for sexual harassment. Let me hear. Is that what the
Yes.
money is for? Let me hear.
Changing in the room.
In what room?
It was in the dressing room at this house.
I have a
'cause that's-
makeup.
Jump. I'm going to get to you. Go
It
ahead.
was during this shoot that I was changing from the bathing suit to get in this position. He was behind me, okay, grabbing my rear, telling me all these accusations, how sexy, how attractive, ooh, how this looks so good, my behind, grabbing it. That was one incident. This
Just a second. At
photo
what stage?
shoot right here.
Just a second. At what stage was this?
During the photo shoot, toward the end of the photo
Okay.
shoot.
Go ahead.
Okay. During this photo shoot, He told me I had to raise it up more, the dress, put it up or on the side. So he came over there behind me. He did it again, hit me on the butt, telling me again how attractive my butt looked, how good it looked, making all these sexual comments. I was ready to leave. I told him, don't say that, don't do that. I said I was ready to go. Are we done?
Did that happen, sir?
It's total bogus. Let me tell you, throughout the photo shoot, I do make the models feel comfortable, and I do say certain things so they are comfortable. I pose them. I do whatever it's necessary to make him look good, and that's what the pictures are the proof. You can tell. But as far as she said she was ready to leave. She was ready to leave to have. She even said maybe want to go get something to eat. That's as far as I left it at the photo shoot, and that was it.
Miss Fry, I have a couple of questions for you. You did this photo shoot. Towards the end of the photo shoot, you tell me now you believe he sexually harassed you. You stayed, correct? You stayed, is that right?
But I told him don't do it.
And after the photo shoot was concluded, you got the proofs back, right? And you selected 4 photographs. So far, am I right? And you were satisfied with them, you ordered them. Is that right?
I mean, you should
Check.
see.
Do I look like I need help?
No, no.
Miss Fry, look at me.
Yes.
You ordered 4 pictures.
Yeah.
And you were satisfied with them. You told them they were very good, and so good you wanted more pictures, correct?
Yes.
If you had gotten your 7 pictures when you felt you should have gotten them, which was a couple of weeks ago, would I hear sexual harassment from you? Would
If
I
I would
hear
have
these
gotten it?
allegations of sexual harassment from you?
Yes, because they were true. It happened.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This
How
is
many
the first
photographers have you been with?
Several.
Really? You seem to be a little bit naive to me on the situation. I'm
Well,
sorry
who
for
are
that.
you? You need to shut up and mind your own business.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Model Tanya Fry is suing photographer Sean Alexander over slides and alleged harassment.
Is what you're saying to me, you planned on suing him whether he gave you the pictures or not?
About the sexual harassment?
Is what you're telling me that you intended when you left, or a day later or 2 days later, whether or not you got these photographs, you intended to sue him for $2,000 for sexually harassing you?
Oh, no. I was not sure of what I was going to do about those sexual
Well,
harassment
what made you
charges.
sure?
I wanted to let them know what was done to me during
What
a photo shoot.
No, what I'm asking you is, at what point did you become sure that you wanted to sue him for this sexual harassment? After you ordered the first set of pictures, before you ordered the first set of pictures, when you ordered the second set of pictures?
The second. That's when I found out that I could not get my slides or negatives when he told me he was not going to give them to me because he keep them for his record.
So you determined to sue him for this $2,000 for sexual harassment when he declined to give you the negatives. Is that correct?
When I didn't get all of my things.
Very good. Okay, you now have your photographs. Is that correct?
I have some of them.
No, you have all of them. You have all that you ordered, which were the 7 retouched large photographs. And you have the 4 that he originally gave you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you, sir, have been paid $175 for these.
Yes.
And you have been paid the $100 for the other 4.
Yes.
Correct? And you have been paid $250 for the photo shoot.
Yes.
Very good. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm sorry, Tanya, but I think, you went a little bit out of line.
No, I did
You
not.
know I did everything
No,
I
I did
could.
not.
You know I did everything
No,
I
I
could.
did not.
Okay? I think the judge saw the whole thing. This is just ridiculous, but I'm glad to solve it.
And now the next case.
All parties on Hanley versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
25-year-old landscaper Lawrence Handley says Richard Lewis set his shirt on fire to wake him up. Lewis says Handley had previously set off a firecracker at his feet.
Why in the world would you burn him with a cigarette lighter?
Well, it was kind of a practical joke. I wasn't intending to burn him. I was just intending to make his arm warm. It's just a gag like a hot foot or something like that.
How old are you?
27.
Tell me how it happened.
We were waiting at my friend Scott's house here. It was after a softball game.
A what?
Softball game.
Softball game.
And we were going to go out for a couple cocktails after the game. A few people were supposed to meet us there. I fell asleep while we were waiting.
Where, in the living room?
Yeah, in the living room, in a chair in his house. I woke up, I felt or smelt something burning on my arm, and I kind of hopped up, and my shirt was on fire. And I jumped out of the chair and, you know, started hitting my arm, and my arm was burned up, and I kind of looked around. I was in a daze. I'd just woken up, and I see him, and actually Scott was laughing too. I see him cracking up right next to me. Sort of found out that...
Did you ask him why he did that?
He basically told me, oh, well, I was trying to, you know, get you or something like that, burn your arm or light your hair on fire or something ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I don't know. He was still laughing up a storm about it, and I wasn't too pleased, you know, so.
Still have a mark there?
Yeah, I do.
Can I see it, please? Step up.
Step up. It's smaller than it used to be, but it used to be about as big as a baseball.
How long ago did that happen?
4 or 5 months ago.
Did you see that, sir?
This is the first time I saw it when he showed it to you.
You want to see it? Sure.
Well, he wants some damages for your stupidity.
Well, Your Honor, it's, you know, in all fairness, our group of friends, when someone passes out or goes to sleep, we play practical jokes on him before. I know for a fact that he's done it to other people, tie people's shoelaces together. I mean, that's why I have a witness to corroborate.
Tying their shoelaces together, sir, is a far cry from using a cigarette lighter and setting somebody on fire.
Well, I wasn't
intending
to light him on fire.
At age
That's the whole
27.
thing.
What were you trying
Do you
to
work?
do then?
Well, yeah, I do. You know,
Well, just
if I
a
start acting like I'm 27, I'm going to be 27. If I act like a kid, I'm going to be young for the rest of my life.
What kind of work do you do?
I sell copy work and graphics work to law firms, Overflow.
Amazing.
That sounds like a pretty responsible position, sir.
It is.
So when do you take on this infancy that you do? Just on weekends?
I like to have fun. You know, in all fairness, too. In previous, I think it was last year on 4th of July, you know, he thought it was a cool gag to throw a firecracker at my girlfriend and I. And scared her pretty good. It pissed me off real good.
What?
And, you know, he just laughed it off and everybody laughed. And, you know, it was funny to him, you know.
Anybody get hurt?
No. But, you know,
I don't even know what he's talking about.
I don't know what he's talking about either. He's talking about trying to be Peter Pan for the rest of his life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's suing you for $2,500 because he said he got burned and it hurt and it got infected.
I have a shirt too, by the way.
Let me see it.
It's kind of
That's
dirty.
pretty scary.
I haven't washed it since then, but
It's pretty scary. Did you ever say I'm sorry?
Yeah, I did. You know,
no, he didn't.
When? Just a second. When did you say I'm sorry?
At the time, I mean, we were still laughing, so he probably didn't take it.
Who was laughing?
I was. Scott was as well.
I'm laughing too. $2,500 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please. I'll back up to your right.
On the next Judge Judy.
Step forward, please.
22-year-old insurance salesperson Dania Norris says former roommate Krista DeReamer, age 22, skipped out on rent and fees. Krista is countersuing Dania for telling her parents she was an exotic dancer.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 465 on the calendar in the matter of Norris versus DeReamer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Norris, how long did you know the defendant before you invited her into your home?
I knew her approximately 2 years, but we had lost contact for an entire year.
There came a time, according to your complaint, that the defendant was having some difficulty and left her family's home and moved into your home.
Correct.
And you say she was there for about 4 months?
About 3 months.
And that she left owing you some money?
Yes.
What was the rental agreement that you had with her?
It was $100 a month for rent, Out of common courtesy, I expected a month of notice, 1/3 utilities, help out with groceries, which she did. She paid for utilities in October that she still owes for November and part of December.
Okay. And according to these papers, she moved out on December 12th.
Correct.
So you want her to pay the whole month of December.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what else does she owe you for?
She owes $70 for late fee. We gave her the opportunity to pay the rent, and it never came. So I figured $10 a day, and then I decided to take it to court.
$10 a day?
Uh-huh.
For late fees?
7 days. And then I decided to take it to court. I had already given her 2 weeks.
Doesn't seem like an awful lot of money that you're suing for, $294. So there must be another reason why you're bringing this lawsuit, because you had to take time away from whatever else you do. I assume you work?
Mm-hmm. Part-time.
Who is this?
This is my husband. He's also my witness.
And I assume he works?
Yes.
So you took time off from whatever business you had to do, so there must be something more to this than $294.
No, we just took her in. She was pregnant. Basically would have given her the shirts off our back, and she stabbed us in the back.
So, I'm listening.
My side of the story. Well, I had known Dania. It's true that I had known her for 2 years. And I was telling her about my situation. I told her I was pregnant, and I said, you know, I just know that my family's going to kick me out. I know that my boyfriend's going to bail on me, and I think that I should have an abortion. And she said, no, we want you to keep it, and to do that, we're willing to help you out. We want you to stay with us. We're going to give you encouragement, and all we ask for is that you pay $50 for groceries. And so I did, to my best ability, fulfill that. And they were constantly fighting all the time. After I lost my baby, they started asking for $100 rent. You know, as if losing my baby and my family and the boyfriend wasn't enough. You know, can we get $100 out of you because we spent too much on our credit cards? And I just got fed up with it because the bills kept coming.
But you did pay her $100 at least twice for rent.
Because she said she didn't have food to feed her baby.
No. That means if you didn't have food to feed the baby, then maybe you give her $20. So clearly, based upon what she's saying, you did have some arrangement with her to give her rent. Were you working?
I was.
Well, if you were working when you moved in with her and her husband, then you should pay rent, right?
Right.
Of course.
I have a paper here. This is Krista's handwriting. She even has written on it, rent utilities, $153. Looks like a monthly thing to me.
Well, let me take a look. Let me ask you this question. What did you write up this little sheet of paper for? To see what your expenses were?
Indeed.
Indeed. All state insurance, $153. What is that for?
Auto insurance.
For a?
Car.
That belongs to you?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a car. What kind of car do you have?
Ford Probe.
And you pay $153 a month so that you can drive the car?
Yes.
And Colorado National Bank, $3,000. What was that for?
It was a leftover expense from my fiance and I's bank account.
Mm-hmm. You have a credit union payment?
Mm-hmm.
$2,000? Payment is $163. What kind of work do you do?
I work for Allstate Insurance.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you worked for them?
I've worked for them for 4 months.
And prior to that, who were you working for?
I was working for Home Depot.
In what capacity?
I was a cashier.
Okay. So you built up a lot of debt here.
Indeed.
Indeed you did. One of the debts you had, madam, was to pay rent. Because you drive a car, you pay insurance, you buy clothes. According to this, you buy a lot of other stuff. And you even list here what your bills are, $153 rent and utilities. Right? So how can you say you didn't have an agreement with her to pay rent?
I didn't have a written agreement. I never had a key to the house. My things were never secured.
Look, you weren't a prisoner there, were you?
No.
So if you didn't like the accommodations, you pick yourself up, you pack up your little suitcase, and you leave.
I had nowhere to go.
That's not her fault. That's your fault.
It's true.
Come on. You had a verbal agreement that you would pay her $100 a month. You didn't pay it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So I was in the process of redeveloping a relationship with my family, and because of what she said to them, they won't talk to me anymore. I live across the street. They don't even wave.
And later today,
next thing I hear this verbiage, "Here I come, Herbert." He swung around with his fists and hit me in the right eye, and there was blood everywhere, and I couldn't see out of my right eye.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dania Norris is suing former roommate Krista DeReamer for running out on the rent. Krista says Dania slandered her by telling her parents she was a topless dancer.
Look, what you are suggesting as far as late fees, I think is excessive.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
I also have some pictures, if you'd like to take a look at them.
Yeah.
One of them is probably not appropriate. Used condoms that were left between the mattresses and the wall.
She left the place a mess. Is what you're saying she left the place a mess? I don't have to see the pictures. Now, these things that you are suing her for, a piece of the power and light, a piece of the phone, piece of the trash, piece of the water, cleanup fee. How much did you pay to clean up the place?
We didn't clean anything, but I figured our time and effort to throw away the trash and the dead flowers is worth $10. It was very disrespectful.
She was disrespectful. Now, we don't come up to a lot of money here. I'm going to address myself to your countersuit, which, at least on paper, looks like nonsense. You're countersuing for $1,200. In 3 minutes or less, tell me why.
The reason being is because I was in the process of redeveloping a relationship with my family, and because of the night that she decided to go and tell them that about my past work experience, that they won't talk to me anymore. I live across the street, they don't even wave. My father had agreed to pay for my medical expenses for a year so that I could get back on my feet after my miscarriage. And because of what she said to them, I'll never have my family back, and I feel that the least I should get is my health.
Where's your father?
In Colorado.
Well, let me explain something to you. You are asking me to assume that if she said anything to your father, it's because of that, in his mind, that he's not talking to you.
That's right.
Well, I can't do that. No court's going to do that. It's ridiculous. So your counterclaim is dismissed, and I'm giving you a judgment for $114. That's all.
Party's not excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
See ya. Out the back, go to your right.
They went over to her parents' house to see if they were willing to bail her out of trouble again, and they said that she's been lying to them ever since they can remember.
I would say that they're small-town people that think small.
And now the next case.
Party's on Herbert versus Ryan. Step forward, please.
58-year-old salesman Greg Herbert claims roommate 39-year-old marketing rep Chris Ryan assaulted him, causing severe eye injury.
Now, are you neighbors? Is that what I understand this to be?
We were living in the same house, Your Honor.
In the same house?
Same house.
Not an apartment house, a private house.
It's a cottage, a 3-bedroom house.
And how long had you been living there together?
I had been there over a year. He had been there 4 or 5 months, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, he assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
When?
On the evening of December the 5th, 1997.
And tell me the circumstances surrounding the assault, sir.
I was on the telephone this one evening about 5 in the afternoon, and I heard a lot of noise out in the front of the house, barking like a dog, and general commotion. I went out the front door, and Mr. Ryan was sitting in a chair right outside the front door with one of the neighbor's kids, and he was making a lot of noise and barking. So I said, please, you keep the noise down. I'm on the phone to San Francisco. I can't hear. I went back to my room. The noise continued. I went out, it said the same thing a second time. Went back, third time, same thing. No abatement of noise, no apologies or anything. The fourth time, I went out, closed the door, I locked the door, went back into my room, got back on the phone. couple of minutes later, I heard the screen being torn out of my window, which is, my desk is facing the wall, my back is to the window. The drape is closed over the window. Next thing I hear this verbiage, "Here I come, Herbert." He vaulted into the room onto my bed. My bed is right underneath the window. I got up from my chair, starting to get a little fearful, went through the door. He swung around with his fists and hit me in the right eye. He was on my left. I was just reaching towards the door. All of a sudden, there was blood everywhere. And just to show you, Your Honor, this is my shirt that I was wearing at the time. These are my jeans that I was wearing. They have been washed once, but there are still blood stains visible. I have a cordless phone on my desk. I reached around, picked up the phone to dial 911. He grabbed hold of me, pulled me down, grabbed the phone out of my hand. So I immediately just got up, went into the bathroom. There was blood everywhere, and I couldn't see out of my right eye. I went over the sink. There was blood coming down to the sink, picked up a towel. He came into the room beside me and says, "Why did you get in my face?" So I said, "Well, I'm blind in one eye. I'm going to hospital."
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're not living together, are you? Did you move out?
He moved out at the end of the month.
He moved out.
In December, yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Greg Herbert is suing Chris Ryan for punching him in the eye.
Okay, Mr. Ryan. Let me hear you, sir.
On the day that we're talking about, I was on the porch, and I did have one of the neighbor kids over, and he was singing, and that's what Mr. Herbert came out, not any dog barking. Mr. Herbert came out the door, yelling at the top of his voice, telling us to quiet down. We're disturbing his peace and quiet in the bedroom. Went back in his room. Oh, first he told me he was going to kick my butt. Then he went back in the house and locked the door. He didn't come out 3 or 4 times. He came out once. I tried to get in the house. The door was locked. I tried all the other doors. They were locked too. I worked my way around to the back of the house where Mr. Herbert's window was. When I got to the window, I believe I surprised him. I have known Mr. Herbert for about 10 years and known Mr. Herbert to be extremely paranoid. I believe that when I caught Mr. Herbert off surprise, his paranoia and his hyperactivity, he lunged up to close the bedroom window, and he has a futon bed directly behind his desk. That's when he slipped and fell into the window. I, not knowing what was happening, put my hands up, and that's when I think his face hit the screen, which hit my hand, popping the screen off, cutting his eye. That's when he dialed, apparently, 911, walked out of the room, and that's when I came in the house, the only entrance I had. I didn't know what he was going to do. And that's what happened. And the police came. They took a police report. There were no arrests made. Loss of wages. The guy sells surfboards. How could he lose any wages? I didn't touch the gentleman. And that's what happened.
All right. Now, is this a one-story house?
It's a one-story house.
And how many windows are there in the house?
Approximately 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So the only window that was available to you to go in was the window in his room.
I tell you, the reason why that is because the other gentleman there, Mr. Warner, who was our landlord, he's extremely paranoid too, and he wouldn't let me leave the house without having all the windows locked. Wouldn't let me leave my room without locking all the windows. Mr. Herbert was the kind of.
So what you're telling me is of the 10 or 12 windows, which I assume you tried, Mr. Ryan, correct, before you went into his window?
Well, yes, I did.
You tried all of the other 9 or 10 or 12 windows before you found that the only possible way of getting into the house was to enter through his bedroom window. Is that correct?
It was not to enter through his window. It was to get to his window and attempt to get him to open the front door for me. But again, because I...
But you wound up, sir, in his room.
I wound up in his room after...
You wound up in his room?
Yes, I did.
Did he pull you into his room?
No, he didn't.
Well, did some force greater than both of you force you into his room?
There's no force. I told you after Mr. Herbert walked out of his bedroom, me not knowing what his next move was, I came in through the window to get back into the house.
Now, how high up was the window?
Shoulder height, I would say.
So you had to sort of lift yourself up. It's not a walk-in window.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me understand this. Because of the landlord, you're the landlord?
No, I'm the original I'm the original tenant.
Okay, because of this gentleman and his paranoia, all of the other 12 windows on the first level were bolted. So the only place that you could go was to his window. And you never entered into the room until after he somehow fell on the screen, which caught in somehow contact with your hand.
He didn't actually
right?
fall on the screen.
Which somehow hit his eye.
Well, it kind of sounds like you're kind of putting words into my mouth, Your Honor.
Listen, sir, I couldn't understand, quite frankly, your explanation.
I just told you, he jumped up.
He jumped up.
He slipped on the bed apparently behind him, lunging to get the window closed, apparently because of his paranoia.
What do you mean closed? Was his window open?
Oh, yeah, the window was open. His bedroom window was open.
And no screen in it?
No, it did have a screen on it.
So
the
what
screen popped off after he fell into it. Bonk. Screen pops off.
It popped off outside or inside?
Outside.
It popped off outside, and somehow when it popped off, he cut his eye?
I think when he fell from slipping on the bed into the screen. Look at the shape the gentleman's in.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's my job to try to evaluate the evidence that's presented before me, what sounds as if it's common sense, logical, and what sounds as if it's a crock of baloney. On that side, we have a crock of baloney. Flying screens, slippage, bolted windows. Now, Mr. Herbert, I will tell you now, sir, that I don't excuse you for locking the door. I mean, you know, he's supposed to have access to the house, so that what you did was wrong to lock the door. But I don't think that that in any way contributed to what happened to you, because Mr. Ryan, if he were acting in a normal, adult fashion, could have either called the landlord, called the police, and say, I've been locked out of my house. The response is not to come flying into your bedroom window and sucking you in the eye. That is not a normal, adult, reasonable response. So while it was not the right thing to do, to lock the front door, you're not living together, are you? Did you move out?
He moved out at the end of the month.
He moved out.
In December, yeah.
For everyone, I'm sure, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Herbert, you are suing the defendant for $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Based upon the... Based upon what I've seen here, you're entitled to your $5,000.
Thank you,
You want to do anything else? You want to do anything else?
Do I look like I'm feeling bad?
And $50 court costs. Thank you.
Excuse. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next...
आज व्हाट्सएप का इसके हिसाब से उम्मीद करता हूँ खैरियत से होंगे। तो भाई आज के इस वीडियो में आपको बताने वाला हूँ भाई S9 पूरी दुनिया में एक नया चीज़ लेकर आया, लॉटरी। ठीक है, पूरे पाकिस्तान के अंदर पहली बार ये ऐसा गेमिंग प्लेटफॉर्म है जो कि लोगों को मौका दे रहा है पैसे जीतने का। ठीक है, अब ये लॉटरी बेस्ड क्या है? लॉटरी ये है वर्ल्ड वाइड, आप जो है ना पाकिस्तान के अंदर रहकर जो है आप टिकट बाय कर सकते हो ऑनलाइन घर बैठे। ठीक है, आप लॉटरी ले सकते हो। जो आप लॉटरी लोगे वो जो होगा 500 रुपये में एक टिकट मिलेगा, वो टिकट नंबर होगा। ठीक है, अगर जिस दिन विड्रॉ होती है तो उस दिन अगर आपका ये नंबर लिखिएगा तो आपको 10 लाख रुपए मिलेंगे। तो अब इसी तरीके से 1000 रुपये में 3 टिकट ले सकते हो। ठीक है, और 3500 में 10 टिकट नंबर ले सकते हो। अब लेना कैसे है वो तो मैं आगे जाकर इसके वीडियो में आपको मिल जाएगा, किस तरीके से टिकट बाय करना है, किस तरीके से पेमेंट करना है, नंबर लेना है। और 15 तारीख को जो है ना ये विड्रॉ होगा और आप सबसे बड़ा इनाम जो है 1 करोड़ रुपए का है। 10 जो है आपको तकरीबन 6 विड्रॉ जो होंगे वो 10 लाख के होंगे और इसके अलावा एक बड़ा इनाम जो निकलेगा वो 1 करोड़ रुपए का होगा। उसमें से आप भी हो सकते हो। तो भाई सारे लोग धड़ाधड़ जो है ना टिकट खरीद रहे हैं, क्योंकि देखो 1500 कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है। आप ऐसे ही दिन में पता नहीं कितने पैसे खर्च कर देते हो, पूरा महीने में खा पी के उड़ा देते हो ना। तो ये समझ लो आप 1000 रुपये आपके लिए फजूल है। आप 1000 रुपये का ये टिकट ले लो, ठीक है। 1000 रुपये में आपको 3 टिकट नंबर मिल जाएंगे और 15 तारीख को ये विड्रॉ होगा, वर्ल्ड वाइड होगा, वर्ल्ड वाइड। बड़ी तादाद में लोग जो है ना टिकट खरीद रहे हैं। देर ना हो जाए, बाद में ये नहीं बोलना कि भाई आपने बताया नहीं। आप मेरे सारे सब्सक्राइबर हो, मैं चाहता हूँ कि भाई आप भी फ़ायदा उठाओ। एटलीस्ट एक मौका तो लो। आप भी कहीं जाते हो इधर उधर और आपको टिकट मिलता है तो आप ख़रीदते हो ना, टिकट ख़रीदते हो, अपना लक आजमाते हो। तो भाई यहाँ पर भी आपको मौका मिल रहा है लक आजमाने का, तो भाई लक आजमाओ। मैंने तो पहली फुर्सत में ले लिया। यहाँ पर आपको स्क्रीनशॉट नज़र आ रहा है, ये मेरा टिकट नंबर है, ठीक है। अब जब आप 1000 रुपये में 3 टिकट नंबर खरीदोगे तो इस तरीके से स्क्रीनशॉट ले लेना है, उसी टाइम ले लेना है, ठीक है, और अपने पास संभाल कर रखना है। फिर आपने क्या करना है, जिस दिन विड्रॉ होगा 15 तारीख को, ये आपको डिटेल नज़र आ रही है, तो उस दिन अनाउंसमेंट हो रहा होगा तो आपने देखना है और आपको पता चल जाएगा, ठीक है। और अगर आपको पता नहीं भी चलता है ना तो खुद टीम आपको कांटेक्ट करके जो है ना आपको अनाउंस करेगी। तो इस वजह से अनाउंस करेगी क्योंकि आपने गेम के अंदर से आईडी अपलोड की, टिकट बाय किया ना। जब वो प्रोसेस करेंगे तो गेम आईडी आ जाएगी। गेम आईडी जो होगी वो नंबर पे बनती है, तो आपके मोबाइल नंबर उनके पास ऑटोमेटिक होता है, ठीक है, तो वो आपको कॉल कर लेंगे। तो अब ख़रीदना कैसे है, चलो मैं आपको बताता हूँ ख़रीदते कैसे हैं। आज व्हाट्सएप का कैसे आप सब, उम्मीद करता हूँ खैरियत से होंगे। तो भाई आज की इस वीडियो में आपको बताने वाला हूँ भाई S9 पूरी दुनिया में एक नया चीज़ लेकर आया, लॉटरी, ठीक है। पूरे पाकिस्तान के अंदर पहली बार ये ऐसा गेमिंग प्लेटफॉर्म है जो कि लोगों को मौका दे रहा है पैसे जीतने का, ठीक है। अब ये लॉटरी बेस्ड क्या है, लॉटरी ये है वर्ल्ड वाइड। आप जो है ना पाकिस्तान के अंदर रह कर जो है आप टिकट बाय कर सकते हो ऑनलाइन घर बैठे, ठीक है। आप लॉटरी ले सकते हो। जो आप लॉटरी लोगे वो जो होगा 500 रुपये में एक टिकट मिलेगा, वो टिकट नंबर होगा, ठीक है। अगर जिस दिन विड्रॉ होती है तो उस दिन अगर आपका ये नंबर लिखिएगा तो आपको 10 लाख रुपए मिलेंगे। तो अब इसी तरीके से 1000 रुपये में 3 टिकट ले सकते हो, ठीक है, और 3500 में 10 टिकट नंबर ले सकते हो। अब लेना कैसे है वो तो मैं आगे जाकर इसके वीडियो में आपको मिल जाएगा, किस तरीके से टिकट बाय करना है, किस तरीके से पेमेंट करना है, नंबर लेना है। और 15 तारीख को जो है ना ये विड्रॉ होगा और आप सबसे बड़ा इनाम जो है 1 करोड़ रुपए का है। 10 जो है आपको तकरीबन 6 विड्रॉ जो होंगे वो 10 लाख के होंगे और इसके अलावा एक बड़ा इनाम जो निकलेगा वो 1 करोड़ रुपए का होगा, उसमें से आप भी हो सकते हो। तो भाई सारे लोग धड़ाधड़ जो है ना टिकट खरीद रहे हैं, क्योंकि देखो 1500 कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है। आप ऐसे ही दिन में पता नहीं कितने पैसे खर्च कर देते हो, पूरा महीने में खा पी के उड़ा देते हो ना। तो ये समझ लो आप 1000 रुपये आपके लिए फजूल है। आप 1000 रुपये का ये टिकट ले लो, ठीक है। 1000 रुपये में आपको 3 टिकट नंबर मिल जाएंगे और 15 तारीख को ये विड्रॉ होगा, वर्ल्ड वाइड होगा, वर्ल्ड वाइड। बड़ी तादाद में लोग जो है ना टिकट खरीद रहे हैं। देर ना हो जाए, बाद में ये नहीं बोलना कि भाई आपने बताया नहीं। आप मेरे सारे सब्सक्राइबर हो, मैं चाहता हूँ कि भाई आप भी फ़ायदा उठाओ। एटलीस्ट एक मौका तो लो। आप भी कहीं जाते हो इधर उधर और आपको टिकट मिलता है तो आप ख़रीदते हो ना, टिकट ख़रीदते हो, अपना लक आजमाते हो। तो भाई यहाँ पर भी आपको मौका मिल रहा है लक आजमाने का, तो भाई लक आजमाओ। मैंने तो पहली फुर्सत में ले लिया। यहाँ पर आपको स्क्रीनशॉट नज़र आ रहा है, ये मेरा टिकट नंबर है, ठीक है। अब जब आप 1000 रुपये में 3 टिकट नंबर खरीदोगे तो इस तरीके से स्क्रीनशॉट ले लेना है, उसी टाइम ले लेना है, ठीक है, और अपने पास संभाल कर रखना है। फिर आपने क्या करना है, जिस दिन विड्रॉ होगा 15 तारीख को, ये आपको डिटेल नज़र आ रही है, तो उस दिन अनाउंसमेंट हो रहा होगा तो आपने देखना है और आपको पता चल जाएगा, ठीक है। और अगर आपको पता नहीं भी चलता है ना तो खुद टीम आपको कांटेक्ट करके जो है ना आपको अनाउंस करेगी। तो इस वजह से अनाउंस करेगी क्योंकि आपने गेम के अंदर से आईडी अपलोड की, टिकट बाय किया ना। जब वो प्रोसेस करेंगे तो गेम आईडी आ जाएगी। गेम आईडी जो होगी वो नंबर पे बनती है, तो आपका मोबाइल नंबर उनके पास ऑटोमेटिक होता है, ठीक है, तो वो आपको कॉल कर लेंगे। तो अब ख़रीदना कैसे है, चलो मैं आपको बताता हूँ खरीदते कैसे हैं.